And we are back. We are back. All right. Lunch break is over. Welcome back to part 2 of Georgia versus Hannah Payne. Let me do the screen share. Hey, Sherry. Hey, girl. How are you? Did you have any lunch? I didn't have any lunch. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, Abigail. I was busy. Couldn't get to it. I couldn't get to it. I was trying to hurry up and get some other stuff done before I had to come back. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, you had a turkey sandwich. That sounds good. I'm sorry, Abigail. I really am. Let me share a screen. Present. Share screen. And So yeah. We have this one back. Here we have this this feed is back. It's not, I mean, they're not there yet, but you know. Anyway. Oh, hold on. Sorry, Dale popped in for a minute. Feels like lies to you? No lies. I tell you, no lies. But they were supposed to be back at 11 or 12:45, and then starting back at 1. But I do love you. I love you very much. Very much. Very much. I'm sorry. Abigail, I'm not a great multitasker like you are, okay? What did you message me? Let me see. um, Hey, Tammy, how are you? You missed the early one, the time difference, 2 hours behind. Gotcha. No worries. There's always a replay. Always a replay. Hello and welcome. Okay, Abigail, I will do that, baby. She's texting me and I'm answering her texts via this. Oh, hi back. Hi, Deborah. Welcome back. I finished watching Mr. Robinson's testimony from yesterday. Tucker badgers until he practically gets the witness to say what he wants or tries to. Really makes me mad. He does kind of do that. He does kind of like, he just twists, you know? But yeah. And you heard that apparently his information was leaked or whatever, right? The Mr. Robinson. Sadly, telephone number. I don't remember if it was the address or just telephone number. Anyway, no good. He went to town, Abigail. He had to go get a work light for the garage and a gallon of milk. Or I would tell him hi. You can tell him hi. You can text him and tell him hi. 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 La 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 la. I'm waiting for you to spit this out in text, though. Hurry up. Hurry up. Hurry up. So, I have the news about Lori Vallow Daybell earlier was that her arraignment was today. And I found out, I think it was yesterday, that her trial is set for like April 4th or something. Yeah. If you don't hurry up and spit it out, Abigail, she's one of those that, you know how you have those friends or those relatives that when they're texting you, let me make sure I have this on play and not on pause. Yeah, it's on play. Okay. Just double checking. Oh, well, now it's on. Oh, Lord. Am I behind? We might have been sitting here waiting for nothing. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Anyway, Abigail's one of those friends that when texting you, it's you see the dots, the dot, 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 and then she quits. And then it starts again, and then it quits. And then it starts again, and then it quits. And you're just like, can you please just spit it out? I'm clicking my little arrow button to get it to go, go, go. Just in case. And if I am behind, it's only by a couple of minutes. So, yeah. Oh, I see the camera moving. Did you see the camera moving? Dun, 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 dun. Mm-hmm. 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 Bum, ba-da-bum, ba-ba-dum, bum. Gotta get my coffee. Don't you love a squeaky chair? That was sarcasm. I don't love a squeaky chair. And then Abigail writes a book, right? She just cracks me up. She just cracks me up. This Abigail character. Judge comes in. I have tabs open that I need to shut. My MacBook is old. Not well, I mean it's a MacBook, right? But it's still older. And I need to get a good it needs a good dump. It needs to take a dump, a good dump. I hear audio.
She didn't do what she's supposed to do. Yes, I did.
And now I don't. Hey, Gail. Welcome back. Da, 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 da. I don't know all the words to Welcome Back, Cotter, but welcome back. Oh, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. All right. Come on, you guys. Come on. Welcome, everybody. I hope you guys had an amazing lunch. I didn't have lunch, so that means I'll probably be getting up in a little bit and snacking on something. I had cheese yesterday. I think that was what my snack was. And my stream keeps going though. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. And my feet are still cold. I need socks. I'm very needy right now. Needy. I watched the end of the girl's testimony. He was rebuttal what she wrote. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Okay. I always love how they like share the seals like this, the Clayton County, Georgia seal. I always think that's super cool. Put the sock on that I stole from you. I should. I really should. I should do that. I should. Because those socks that I stole from you are very thick. Yeah, very thick. Da 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 da. Very loud trucks. You guys remember the tree trimmers I told you about that was cutting down a tree in my neighbor's yard? It is gone. Completely gone. And they have, well, I won't say the tree is gone. The tree is still there. It's just not upright. So they came and they cut that tree down. The electric company now came and cut this tree down, and this tree is nowhere near a power line. So I don't understand why they cut the tree down. But the entire tree is laying in piles in their yard.
Yes.
I would be like, if you're going to come and cut my tree down, you're going to clean it up and take it with you. I don't know if that's the plan and they just haven't done it yet, but I was going to say good grief, and I said good morning because I saw Billy's comment. Oh my goodness. Is anyone on the chat from Georgia? I want to know about their concealed carry law, because why was Hannah carrying a gun that day? I mean, it's probably a pretty open state. Most really southern states, I guess, are. Um, but yeah, I'm not really familiar with the ins and outs of all of that. You wear my pants all the time, Abigail. You crack me up. Billy says, good morning. Did I miss a lot? Nothing yet. I mean, they're running behind this afternoon. The Grinch. I like your name. Clayton County used to be a nice county, but unfortunately it's gone to poop. I live less than 10 minutes from this courthouse. Oh, wow. Well, they have a pretty courthouse. Well, I don't know what the outside of the courthouse looks like. She was licensed with a concealed weapons permit. There you go. You sure do, and tried to steal them. I said no. You're so funny. Oh my God. Colorado, you can carry one with a concealed weapon license. I believe that's all states. Yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure. I'm going to grab some socks, you guys. I'm going to grab some socks. I got my socks on finally. I had to find thick socks. All the socks that I like originally grabbed or initially grabbed out of the sock drawer were like the socks that you wear in the summer that are like paper thin. Yeah, that's not gonna work. My feet are cold. Like I could look at my big toe and it would probably just break right off right now. That's how cold my feet are. So chilly willy. Okay, let me go back up. Let me go. Okay. Grinch says Hannah is my best friend's sister. I'm just watching so I don't go on camera. Very interesting. I hope they are mine, she says, Abigail. Deborah says, okay, thanks. I don't take anything said personally as y'all are just going on what has been said so far. Deborah says, I don't own a gun, don't intend to, would never feel the need to carry one out and about with me. Maybe I'm naive. I am, after all, a country girl. Grinch says, love and respect to everyone. Tragedy for sure. Just want to watch trial to see all the evidence. Hope you're open-minded. Sad situation for all. Excuse me. In Iowa, you can carry with a license. Yeah, so I don't know the different. I mean, it's funny how they're all, all the states are just different. Hey, Ruby Q. How are you? Trial is crazy. She was definitely in the wrong on so many levels. Kel's back. I have my own personal opinion with what I know, but I'm very open-minded with the situation. True. Reminder to the chat, we're watching this for our entertainment, but we are watching real people with people who love them. No way she was in the right on what she did. So much evidence towards her murdering him. Crime analysis doesn't lie. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I know. It can get sticky. That's for sure. Try to stay open-minded, but people have just become so gun crazy. I have a sister who's a real dingbat, and she bought a gun. She lives in a city. Scary. Well, I mean, the dingbat comment made me laugh. God. Yeah, there's some people who just shouldn't. You know what I mean? Ay. Watching this for educational reasons, LOL. It's part of my assignment for class. There you go, Ruby Q. Are you still going to school for that, Ruby? 100% on that. She's not completely in the right. Yep. Well, I mean, one thing I've always said, and I find myself doing this with just about every single trial that I watch, right? Unless it's blatant, like, I don't know, I could name so many that there's like Letitia Stout for one, and her and Gannon. But most of the time I will watch a trial and I'll hear one side and I'm like, oh wow, okay, yeah. This guy did it. He did it. He's guilty. And then I hear their side and then I'm like, well maybe he's not. Maybe it didn't happen that way. And then I'm like this. I'm like back and forth. So, yeah. And I'm a Libra. And Libras are just normally that way anyway. They're very balance. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Well, except for Ruby who's watching for homework. Yes. Okay, so you got your associates in criminal justice and you're working on your bachelor's. Good for you. Good for you, Ruby Q. Good job, sis. Prayed for her, prayed for his family, and prayed for the truth to be shown or shared. A fair verdict. Yeah. Yep. Well, I'm all for the, you know, like the impartial, fair, all of that kind of stuff, you know? I'm really like, I struggle with, like I was saying, with the, I believe the one and then not the other. Have they still not started? Am I paused again? Are we just sitting here having a conversation, or it's showing that it's playing? So let me run over to Twitter and see if they've got any updates. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really big on, the one and then the other. I'm like, I just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And so, it comes down to, yeah, they are, Ruby. They were supposed to be back. They were supposed to reconvene at 12:45 and then bring the jury back out at 1:00, and that's not happened yet. So, and on Twitter, I'm not seeing anything. One tweet says the trial is heating up. Self-defense or malice murder. Criminal justice, interesting degree, Ruby. Good for you. Yeah, I know. Oh, Kath, you know what? I didn't even pay attention. I think so. But hi, Kath. Missed you today. How are you doing? It is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it 5:30 a.m. for you right now? He actually is. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, and we're back. There's that pretty judge. She is so, I don't know. I like her. I like her. 5:30 a.m. Yep. Bub thinks it's playtime. I was going to say, I thought, yeah. 5:30 sounds about right. Amen, Grinch. Prayers to all involved and praying for the jury as well. This must be rough on them. Yeah. I was going to say 1 p.m. lunch over. Right? Oh, I need my chapstick. My lips are so chapped right now. My lips are chapped. Anybody get the Dreamer Designs text? Missed Black Friday, shop, buy one, get one, 70% overstock kit off of overstock kits. Wow. All right. So they are back. Looks like everybody enjoyed their lunch. We got Hannah over here matching the tie still. Yeah. The yellow, they're team yellow on that side. Oh, but you didn't see anything in their overstock section, Billy, that you liked? Yeah, I don't know about the yellow. It just makes me laugh because they're literally yellow and yellow. Like, did they like decide this?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Y'all need to get you some Abbey Balm. My chapstick doesn't burn, baby.
With the case and statement, go ahead and call its next witness.
Yes, Kel. The more you need, or the more you use, the more you need. Guy in the back right is her brother.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give before the court in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
You can take your hand down and have a seat.
Well, one thing we've noticed is her dad
You're,
is a very
keeping your
sleepy
mask
guy.
on, if you would just
He
make
likes
sure
to
you're
sleep.
enunciating well enough for the court reporter and for the jurors to hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
If you would please state and spell your name.
Tammy's got to buy a
Detective Donnell
microwave.
Rowling, D-A-R-N-E-L-L-R-O-L-L-I-N-G, with the Clayton County Police Department.
And
Yeah,
how long have
Billy.
you been with the Clayton County Police Department?
For over 12 years.
And have you gone through the training to become a post-certified law enforcement officer?
Yes, ma'am.
And what does that mean?
That means that I've met all the requirements for the state of Georgia to be certified as a law enforcement official.
And that's what gives you arrest powers?
That is correct, yes.
And what is your job description? What was your job description back in May of 2019?
I was in the criminal investigation division for the Clayton County Police Department, where we
Poppy, will you
investigate
quit?
all sorts of
Sorry,
crimes,
my
such
dog's
as,
over here.
persons and property.
And the criminal investigations division, would that be what lay people would think of as where the detectives are?
That is correct, yes.
So not the uniform officers that ride out in the patrol cars, but the detectives that come later.
That is correct, yes.
And in the course of your work at the Clayton County Police Department, were you asked at some point after May to obtain a known DNA sample from the defendant in this case, Hannah Payne?
Yes, I was.
And did you perform that task on November the 26th of 2019?
I did.
What did that entail?
Pretty much until me applying for a search warrant affidavit for a buccal swab, or what is known as DNA, collected from the defendant at the time.
And how do you perform the swab? What do you do?
There's a protected Q-tip or swab, if you will, enclosed in a clear plastic seal. That seal is not broken until I've met with the defendant and explained the scenario or the situation to them. I then break that seal and insert into the mouth or to the jaws and inner lining of the mouth to collect DNA.
And once you've inserted the swab into the mouth and done the collection, what happens next?
It is then placed back into the seal and resealed again and sent off to the crime lab.
And
to
did
the
you?
background lab.
So did you follow that procedure in this case?
I did.
And once the swab is placed into the container that it came in originally, is that container then bagged for evidence?
Yes, it is.
I've already shown what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit number 5 to Defense Counsel. May I approach the witness?
Yes,
Do you hear that accent? Number 5.
What's been marked as State's Exhibit number 5. If you could
Number
look at
5.
both sides to see if you recognize State's Exhibit number 5.
Number 5.
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you recognize State's Exhibit number 5?
Has my
Number 5.
initials and signature on it, along with the
Sorry.
date and
Sorry.
my information attached.
And when you, after you swab the defendant in this case, place that swab into the bag that is labeled as State's Exhibit number 5, did you alter, delete, mess with, tamper with, do anything at all to the swab of the defendant's mouth?
No, ma'am.
And other than the fact that the State's Exhibit number 5 has been opened by the crime lab for testing, is this container in the same or substantially the same condition as when you sealed it?
Yes, ma'am.
Right at this time, State will tender State's Exhibit number 5.
Number 5.
No, number 5.
Y'all sick of hearing me say number 5?
Any cross-examination?
Yes, I'll be very brief on this, Cheryl.
Hey, Don, welcome back.
Is that the best way that you followed, the best way to collect DNA?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was there anything out of the ordinary or something that occurred while you were collecting that would have compromised it?
No, nothing at all.
Okay. And was Ms. Payne very cooperative when that occurred?
Very cooperative, yes.
All right, Nick, go first.
Number 5 is alive. Oh, Ruby Keys is what? Put the swab in my mouth. Mm.
Should I ask about this for a moment because of what occurred earlier? We switched the order of our witnesses. We had given these witnesses a little bit longer at lunch.
Okay.
So can we just ensure that they have returned
Certainly, you may.
since we sent one witness?
Okay.
Thank you.
Wow. No, I love it. Say number 5 and lawyer again, please. How do I say lawyer that makes you, what is it with me and the word lawyer? 5. 5 lawyers. 5 lawyers walked into a bar. How many lawyers does it take to screw in a light bulb? I have no idea. Or if you're very Southern, you'd say light bulb. Oh, and I like how this lawyer, her defense lawyer, Tucker, I like how he said, what was it? Oh, earlier today when he was talking about the car window, he called it a window. I'm like, yes, window. I say it like lawyer. I don't know. You pronounce it like lawyer. That's how you pronounce it. How are you supposed to pronounce it? Lawyer. It is lawyer. Lawyer. You don't say lawyer. Lawyer. How about in the Alec Murdaugh case, whenever they would say juror. No, lawyer. Liar. Okay, we're back.
Okay.
Lawyer. I got you. Lawyer. It's not lawyer. You're not loyal to your lawyer. Juror. Oh my God. Eli's in his bedroom watching Christmas cartoons. I can't. Kel, I'm not even going to lie. Every once in a while, that lawyer right there, I get a peek of her in and I think it's her hair and maybe her eyes. When I see her like every once in a while, I see her and I'm like, oh, she looks like Kel, or Kel looks like her, for just like not like you're way prettier than she is. And I'm not just saying that because I love you. You really are. But every once in a while, I see her and I think it's her hair. And I'm like, oh, Shelby is here. Ooh, you got jury duty papers the other day? We are having a jury over here.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you will provide to this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
She's got a file folder.
Take
She
a
means
seat.
business.
Step up to the microphone. All right, could you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Ashley Haas. That is spelled Ashley, Haas as in Sam.
And where are you employed?
I am currently employed at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation in the Division of Forensic Sciences, which is typically called the Crime Lab.
And what is
See,
your
I would
current
love to have a
position
job
within
like
the
that. That
crime
would
lab?
be so cool.
I am currently a Crime Lab Scientist 3 Senior, specifically a latent print examiner.
Now, can you describe the education and training you've had that qualifies you for this position?
Yes. I received a Bachelor of Science in Forensic Biology with a minor in Chemistry from Western New England University in Springfield, Massachusetts. Upon being hired by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, I successfully completed the 5-month National Latent Print Examiner Training Academy in Meridian, Mississippi, as well as 2 years of in-house training at the GBI following that academy. Each year I complete at least 16 hours of continuing education as well.
And do you hold any certifications?
I do not currently.
And are you a member of any professional organizations?
I am not.
Now, how many prints have you processed during your career as a latent print examiner?
This is not a number that I keep track of, but generally speaking, I work about 25 to 30 cases per month, and those cases can range from 1 print to upwards of 100, so many.
I'll give
And have you
Aiden a
ever
kiss
been
for me,
considered as an
Shelby.
expert in the court in the state of Georgia?
I have,
And how many times?
4 times.
At this time, Your Honor, the state moves to tender this witness as an expert in the field of fingerprint examination and comparison.
Ooh, fingerprints. So she's going to tell us about the fingerprints on this gun.
All right, can you explain your job duties?
Yes, as a latent print examiner at the GBI, my job duties generally include processing items of evidence in an effort to develop latent prints, photographing latent prints that are developed during processing, completing comparisons of latent print to known prints, as well as searching latent prints on both the state and national databases, writing official reports with my results, and testifying to those results in court. I also sometimes have the opportunity to work with identifying unidentified decedents for our medical examiner's office.
I was waiting for her to say unidentified
Now,
flying
Ms. Haas,
objects.
What is a finger? What
That
is a
was like
friction
just
ridge
came out of my
skin?
head.
Friction-ridge skin is going to be the skin found on the palm sides of the hands, from the finger all the way down to the palm, as well as on the soles of your feet. Friction-ridge skin is made up of raised portions known as ridges. They flow across the surface and create different patterns, which are commonly referred to as your fingerprint. Within friction-ridge skin, there are ridge characteristics, which is when a ridge is flowing and ends, that's what we're going to call a ridge ending, or when a ridge is flowing and splits into two like a Y, we refer to that as a bifurcation. The different patterns that these create is, as I said, what we refer to as a fingerprint, but it can also be a palm print or a footprint.
And what is a known print?
A known print is going to be an intentional reproduction of the information within friction-ridge skin. It's often taken using ink and paper or electronically using a live scan device.
And what is a latent print?
A latent print is going to be a chance or an unintentional reproduction of the information in the friction-ridge skin that's left on a surface or an item when it's touched or handled. The term latent also typically means that it may not be readily visible to the naked eye and may require some sort of processing in order to be visible.
Now, what are the basic principles of using fingerprints as a means of identification?
The basic principles are going to be uniqueness and persistency. So I'm just going to break those down into the two. So unique is that when the friction ridges are formed in a random pattern, so no two people are going to have exactly those same ridge characteristics in the same place in comparison to each other. Even your index finger is not going to be the same as your middle finger because they are being formed randomly. And these are formed actually during utero. And the persistent side of that is that when your friction ridge skin is formed, the characteristics within that are not going to change throughout your lifetime. They're going to generally persist. They're generally stable, barring any kind of disease or possibly injury like scarring.
Now, how are items that you receive in the crime lab processed for latent prints?
When an item of evidence is received in the impression section in order to be processed for latent prints, the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to open the item of evidence and I'm going to take an overall photo to document how that item was received previous to me doing any kind of processing. I'm next going to do a visual examination using different types and colors of light in order to see if any of those latent prints are actually visible without doing any processing. And then I'm going to look at what kind of item it is. What processes I utilize is going to be determined by what type of item I'm dealing with. Typically speaking, there are porous and non-porous items. Porous is going to be something like paper, where when an item is touched, the residue on your friction ridges is actually going to seep into that. It's not going to sit on the surface, but it's actually going to be part of it. This makes it a little more stable and not as easily wiped away. Whereas a non-porous item is going to be something like glass or plastic, where the residue actually sits on the surface of the item. If you were to think about touching your glass window, you'd be very easily able to swipe that away. So like I said, what kind of item we're dealing with is how I'm going to decide what type of processing I'm going to use. And after each process, I'm going to do a visual examination again to see if I've developed any latent prints, and then use photography to capture those latent prints to be used later for potential comparison or a database search.
All right, did the crime lab receive items in this case for processing?
Yes, it did.
And do you know who provided those items to the crime lab?
Can I please reference my notes, Your Honor?
Yes.
Those items were received from the Clayton County Police Department.
And what items did you receive?
I received a firearm, a magazine, and 11 cartridges.
Now, can we go step by step for each item, and you can describe how you process each item, starting with the firearm?
Yes, ma'am. The firearm, when I received it, had actually been previously processed. In the incident report, it stated that the item had been superglue fumed. So in that case, I still did my initial visual to see if there were any latent prints that were visible. And then I moved on to a process known as dye staining. In this case, I used basic yellow. So just to move back, I did use superglue fuming on some of the other items, so I'm just going to give a general description of that. Superglue fuming is when superglue is placed onto a hot plate, it becomes a vapor and adheres to latent print residue, creating almost a plasticized print. This just allows there to be contrast between the item and the superglue. So like in this case, the firearm was black. So the hope is that by turning those ridges white, I'm going to be able to actually visualize them. I'm creating contrast. So the next step, as I said, I used basic yellow. This is a dye stain, and all that does is that it doesn't actually develop any more latent prints, but it turns that superglue fluorescent yellow. Again, I'm just trying to create more contrast between my background and the actual ridges. And so for the firearm, that was my final step.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna run and take another bathroom break. I will be right back.
Looking for?
In this case, I was looking for potentially suitable latent prints. At the GBI, for something to be considered potentially suitable, it has to have at least 7 of those ridge characteristics, those ridge endings or bifurcations that I spoke about earlier.
And did you find suitable prints on the firearm?
I did not.
Now, is it possible for a person to touch a surface and not leave a fingerprint or palm print?
Yes, it is.
And can you explain why that may happen?
Yes, there are a couple of known reasons. You've heard me say a couple times that there's residue. So if you were to think about if you were to swipe across your forehead, you might feel a little bit of sweat on your fingers. That is a type of fingerprint residue. Fingerprint residue is really a generalized term used for any contaminant that is on the friction ridge skin when an item is touched. So if someone has drier hands, they may not have as much residue and therefore it may not leave a latent print at all. There's also the possibility that they did leave a latent print, but on something like a firearm, that's that non-porous surface, it was sitting on the surface, and if something was rubbed against it or it was placed in a pocket or something like that, it could be wiped off. And then there's also the chance that, like I said, friction ridge impressions can be made of things like sweat. After a certain length of time, sweat may evaporate. Something that was on the surface originally may no longer be there. So yeah, those are generally going to be the reasons why you can touch an item and not leave a print behind.
And so as it relates to the firearm, there were no prints suitable for comparison?
Correct, that I did not find any potentially suitable latent prints.
Now let's talk about the magazine.
Would you like me to go over how I processed it?
Yes, please.
So for the magazine, the first step I did was a visual examination again to see if there was any potentially suitable latent prints that were visible before processing. And then I moved on to that super glue fuming that I spoke about, followed by the fluorescent dye stain basic yellow.
And what were your results?
So for the magazine, when I did my visual examination, I did find potentially suitable latent prints, but there was no improvement after that initial step.
Now let's talk about the one cartridge. How did you process that?
So the cartridge was going to be the visual that I spoke about, followed by super glue fuming, as well as basic yellow. And then specifically for cartridges, I utilized something called gun blue. What this is going to do is instead of reacting with the fingerprint residue, it's actually reacting with the metal that the cartridge is made of. The fingerprint residue actually becomes a protectant. It's going to protect the metal underneath it, while the gun blue reacts to all the metal that doesn't have fingerprint residue on it and turns it a bluish gray color.
And what were the results for the one cartridge?
For the one cartridge, after visual, I did not see any potentially suitable latent prints. I did, however, find potentially suitable latent prints after superglue fuming, and those were improved after applying the basic yellow dye stain.
And so you ultimately did find suitable prints on the one cartridge for comparison?
So during the processing steps, we only consider if something is potentially suitable or not. The actual suitability for comparison is determined later on during the actual comparison portion.
So there were some potentially suitable prints on the one cartridge for comparison?
Correct.
Now I think the final item was the 10 cartridge.
Yes.
And what was the process that you used for that?
Those were going to be the same processes that I used on the other cartridge: visual, superglue fuming, basic yellow dye stain, and gun blue.
And were there any possible suitable prints for comparison for the 10 cartridge?
No, there were not.
Now, after you completed the processing of all 4 items, did you conduct any examinations for comparison?
I did not.
And based on the results of your examination, just for clarity, which items would have been possibly suitable for further comparison?
So after I did my processing, the magazine and one cartridge did have potentially suitable latent prints on them.
And were all of your results recorded and documented?
Yes, they were.
Any cross-examination?
Good.
I'll try to keep it short and sweet.
Appreciate it.
Could you clarify what you mean by magazine and cartridge?
So the magazine is going to be what holds the cartridges. It actually slides into the firearm. And the one cartridge is only separated from the other cartridges because it was the one that had positive results. They all would have initially been most likely in the magazine. When we receive them at the lab, it does have to be unloaded, so I got them as separate entities.
So to kind of put it in layman terms, it's a clip to a gun and bullets in the gun, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And through all these testing and everything you did, nothing came out as conclusive to say that fingerprint was misfound.
So in this particular instance, I only did the processing of these items. I was not the examiner who went and did the comparison.
But you stated earlier that there was nothing that was possibly suitable. So does that mean it's inconclusive that it was fingerprints that were misfound?
No, so what I did state was that there was potentially suitable latent prints found on the magazine and one cartridge. I would not have gone on further to determine if they were suitable for comparison or who they would have potentially been made by.
Okay, so you're not here to say that the fingerprints matched by, you're just talking about the process of how to collect it.
Correct, I only did processing in this case.
Thank you. No further questions.
Anyone to that? No, brother. Okay, thank you. Ms. Moss. Stand and call its next witness.
Yes, Your Honor, the state calls Emily Kirk. All right, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm the testimony you will provide to this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, you may take a seat and pull yourself up to the microphone. All right, would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Emily Kurek, Emily-Kuruc.
And where are you currently employed?
I'm employed with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Division of Forensic Sciences, also known as the State Crime Lab.
And what is your current position with the crime lab?
I'm a latent print examiner.
Now, how long have you been employed with the crime lab?
I've been with the Crime Lab for a little over 24 years, the last 15 of that as a latent print examiner.
And can you describe the education and training that qualifies you for this position?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice with a concentration in forensic investigations from Jacksonville State University in Jacksonville, Alabama. Since being employed with the GBI Crime Lab, I successfully completed their on-the-job training program for a latent print examiner, which was approximately a year and a half, and covered a wide range of subject matter related to latent prints, such as the history of the use of latent prints for identification, and the processing techniques that are involved in order to develop those. Then, of course, the examination, which includes the analysis thereof, database searches, and the like. And in 2014, I achieved my certification through the IAI, which is the International Association for Identification, as a latent print examiner.
Okay, and are you a member of any professional organizations?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Are you required to complete any continuing continuing education in your field?
Yes, we do have a certain number of hours of continuing education that we have to complete within an accreditation cycle. I think it's an average of 16 hours per year, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Now, have you ever been tendered as an expert in the court in the state of Georgia?
Yes, I have.
And how many times?
Approximately 45.
Okay, at this time, the state moves to tender this witness as an expert in the field of fingerprint examination and comparison.
No.
Okay, so admitted.
Okay, we just heard testimony from Ashley Haas, and it is my understanding that her role in this case was just to process the prints or lift the prints on items received from Clayton County Police Department. And that would have been a firearm magazine, and I think it was separated into 1 cartridge and a 10 cartridge. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, what was your role in this case?
My role was to examine the developed latent prints.
And what specific items were sent to you that were possibly suitable for comparison?
What I had to examine are actually digital images of those developed latent.
Why does he keep shaking his head
Do you
and
recall
looking?
which items?
He looks embarrassed.
Yes,
I
it
think he was
digital
embarrassed
images
because
from
he
developed latent prints from the magazine and one of the cartridges.
was going to make an objection and then was
Now,
like,
how are comparisons made? What is the process?
The process is I visually examine these latent prints. They're in a digital format, so I do this on screen on the computer. I am reviewing the information that is available to me within that latent print. I'm looking for specific details that would allow me to make a comparison with a known print if I had known prints.
And did you have known prints in this case?
Yes.
And do you recall who those prints belong to?
Yes, I had a set of postmortem prints from a listed as from Kenneth Herring, and then I had a set of finger and palm prints listed as being from Hannah Renee Payne.
Now, can you walk us through the process of your examination for comparison for the digital images that you received for both items?
Yes, I was going to say, did you mean specifically from one item to the
Well,
other?
for all the results for, I believe it would be listed in your report as 12B.
Okay. So the images of the developed latent prints from 12B and 12C were analyzed, and one latent print from each item, so one latent print from the magazine and one latent print from the cartridge was determined to be suitable for comparison, which means that there was enough detailed information in that latent print in order for me to put that side by side with another, or rather with the known prints, in order to make a comparison.
And did you do that?
Yes.
And what were your results for 12B, which would have been the magazine?
For 12B, I actually utilized two methods to compare these items. The first method that I used is using an AFIX tracker system, and that's a FIX tracker system. It allows me to create a mini database. When I have a latent print that I might not know exactly what area of the palm a latent print is coming from, or if I'm not certain of the orientation, then it allows me to enter those latent prints into that system and then also enter the known prints into that system, and it does a quick little search for me to help me see if there's anything that might line up that I would then want to visually compare. In that particular instance, for the latent print from 12B and also from 12C, I used that tracker system to do that search for me, and there were no identifications for that. I also visually looked for this print myself. The print from the magazine appears to be a partial palm print, and at least that's the way it looks, but there's not enough of the ridge flow information that lets me be certain of that, so that's part of the other reason I used the tracker system. Then I visually looked for that latent print within the set of knowns as well. For 12B, I had inconclusive results because the palm prints that I was given for knowns to compare were not completely recorded, so I didn't have all of the information I needed in order to achieve a comparison. For the latent print from item 12C, those results were also inconclusive, but that was for a different reason. It just the latent print itself lacks sufficient detail in order for our procedures at the lab in order to be able to exclude it, because I didn't know the proper orientation of the latent print at the time.
So just to be clear, what would you have needed to get a conclusive result for 12B?
The rest of the palm prints, the palm prints that I had only went up to a certain point on the palm, and I needed to be able to see all areas of that friction ridge skin. So up to and including where the palm connects to the fingers. We refer to that as the interdigital area. That portion of the palms was missing from the knowns.
And what would you have needed to get conclusive results for 12C?
Well, it would either need to be an actual identification, or it would always remain inconclusive.
And are your results recorded and documented?
Yes.
Nothing further, John. Thank you. Attorney Tucker, you can process that.
And it's investigator correct?
It's not investigator.
Examiner. Yes, ma'am.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So basically, your testimony is that whoever went and got the palm example for you did not get sufficient evidence for you to use.
However, it was taken known exemplars can be taken with ink and paper or cards, or if it's with a digital device, that's a flat screen of glass that's placed on there. So in some instances, depending on the structure of the hand, sometimes those areas don't even touch the glass to be recorded. So I don't know how they were taken, but yes, in some way they were lacking in the information.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to try to pose it as if somebody done something wrong. The information you got was not sufficient for you to come to a conclusion.
Yes.
Okay. And so your results of all this was inconclusive, correct?
Correct.
No further questions.
May I redirect? Okay, thank you. Excuse me, you may step down.
Thank you for the education, Ruby. I mean, that's pretty cool.
You may call your next witness.
Connor Rosser.
Pretty cool, pretty cool. One of these days we're going to see Ruby Q on the stand as an expert witness. And I'll say, I know her. I know that chick. She is knowledgeable.
If you would just you stand up for me real quick and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give before the court of this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You can take your hand down and have a seat. And are you requesting to keep your mask on for your testimony?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. If you would just make sure you're enunciating and speaking loudly enough for the court reporter to hear your answers and for the jury to hear you as well.
Okay.
If you would state and spell your name.
Shakanda Rosser, Shakonda, Rosser, Rosser.
And Ms. Rosser, back on May the 7th of 2019, were you in the area of Forest Parkway, Clark Howell, Upper Riverdale, and Riverdale Road, in that area?
Yes,
Why would you have been in that area?
I was traveling to a friend's house.
And do you remember about what time of day you were in that area?
I'm not certain.
Okay. Tell us how you were traveling from a friend's house. Or were you going to a friend's house or from?
To a friend's house.
And were you in a vehicle?
I was in a vehicle. I was in, I guess that would be the opposite direction in which the incident occurred.
Okay, so I'm going to use a map to see if that helps you in just a moment. Who was in the car with you?
I was by myself.
You could just step down and try to take a look at State's Exhibit 2A and get oriented. This is the McDonald's. We've got Forest Parkway and Phoenix Boulevard and the other main road, Riverdale Road, coming this way. Can you kind of tell us where you recall that you were traveling?
If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the way to get to the highway. I was coming down this way.
Okay.
In the far left lane, turning lane.
And so for the record, since the record doesn't see the pointing, you're, I don't know if it's south, but as far as the map, you're going from the top of the map toward the bottom. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. As you were driving to your friend's house, did anything occur that drew your attention?
Yes.
And can you describe what drew your attention to anything else on the road?
What drew my attention was seeing a Jeep abruptly come around the rest of the traffic and stopped in front of a red truck. That's what drew my attention. I began to slow down.
Okay. And kind of describe, if you recall, what the traffic was like at that time of day when you're traveling in that, on that particular day.
It was moderate. It wasn't too busy.
In the direction that you were traveling.
Yes.
And so when you indicated that you saw a Jeep drive abruptly around a truck, would that have been something the Jeep would have been traveling toward you?
Yes.
After you saw the Jeep drive around the truck, what did you see happen with that Jeep and that truck next?
I saw the Jeep block the truck in to where the truck couldn't move, and the truck tried to go forward, and there was impact. Once the impact happened, I saw smoke come from the truck and oil leaking from the truck. And after that, I saw a young lady get out the car.
And when you say the car, which car?
Out of the Jeep. I saw a young lady approach the truck and begin swinging and hitting the man that was in the driver's side of the truck.
Okay, from your angle, you could see that it was a female who got out of the Jeep?
Yes.
And how, from your angle, were you also able to see that there was a man in the truck?
Yes.
And when you're first, after you see the Jeep block the truck in, are you moving or are you still?
That's when I stopped.
Where did the driver of the Jeep go after she gets out of the Jeep?
She got out of her Jeep and she immediately went to the truck driver's side, yelling and punching.
Now, when you say punching, what was she punching?
She was punching the man in the truck repeatedly because his window was down, and she just kept punching him over and over and over.
And you indicated that that driver was yelling. Could you hear what she was saying when she got out yelling?
Could not hear what she was saying, I just know she was yelling at the driver of the truck.
From your vantage point, could you tell where on the driver of the truck she was punching?
To me, from what I saw, like I said, I was on the side, it looked as if she was punching him in the chest. It wasn't the face, it was a little lower, it's like in the chest area.
Were you able to see what the man in the truck was doing?
Yes.
What could you see about him?
He was sitting there. He didn't raise any hands or anything, he was just sitting there. That's what got my attention because he wasn't reacting. So I thought that was kind of odd, just sitting there and allowing somebody to punch him like that.
Did you ever see the driver of the truck? Did you ever see his hands at all?
No, not at that moment.
Okay. Could you see anything about the facial expressions or anything like that on the driver of the truck?
He looked confused and shocked, so I figured something was wrong with him.
Could you tell if he was saying anything?
No.
Let me clarify that. No, you couldn't tell, or no, you didn't. He wasn't saying anything to your knowledge.
To my knowledge, I didn't see his mouth moving. I didn't see him saying anything at that moment.
Based on your observations, were there other drivers in the area that were also stopped?
Yes.
After you see the driver of the Jeep at the window striking, what did you see next?
After she repeatedly punched him and yelled at him, she backed away. And after she backed away, I could see the gun on her hip. And she pulled the gun out after punching him repeatedly and asked him to get out the car. Now this is when it was a little louder. I cracked my window after this point so I could hear her telling him to get out the car. She was pointing the gun at him, telling him to get out the car, get out the car. And I think she got a little frustrated because he wasn't getting out the car. So after that, she went back to the car and began punching him again.
And when you said back, when you said the car, she went back to which car?
The truck.
Okay.
She went back to the man's truck and began punching him again.
And does she have the gun at this point?
She has a gun in her hand. If I'm not mistaken, I believe she switched so she could continue to punch him. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead. You finish.
After she continued to punch him, she backed away from the truck again, had the gun held on him, told him to get out the car. He wasn't responding. He didn't say anything. So she went back to the car and tried to open the door.
And when you say the car,
The truck, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's
She
okay.
went back to the truck and she tried to open the door, but it was locked. So that's when I seen her reach inside the truck. It looked like she tried to open the truck from the inside. When she couldn't get the door open from the inside, I say maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, that's when I heard the gunshot.
And where was the person with the woman with the gun? Where was her? Where was she physically when you heard the gunshot?
She was up on the truck, like right up on the driver's side window of the truck, right next to it.
And do you know where the gun was, based on your observation?
At that time, the gun was in her, if I'm not mistaken, right hand, but it was inside the truck. So, of course, with the door panel, I couldn't see what was going on after she stuck it in there, but the door wouldn't open. So I thought she was maybe trying to unlock it from the inside to get the door open.
Okay, that was what you observed, that's what you believed she was trying to do, was unlock the door.
Yes.
But when you hear the gunshot, I just want to make sure I understand, the hand or the arm with the gun was inside the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Based on your observations, did you see anyone try to intervene or to stop this from happening?
Yes.
What did you see?
I saw a bystander stop. He was in the passenger side of a truck. He got out the truck, tried to approach her, and at this time her back was turned, so he was approaching her from behind. And when she turned around with the gun, he just threw his hands up and walked back to the car that he came from.
Did you, I asked you a question earlier about when the person was striking the driver of the truck, and I asked if you saw his hands, and you said not at that moment. Was there any point in which you saw his hands?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you ever see the driver of the truck do anything aggressive toward the driver of the Jeep?
No, I think that's why it was shocking to me, just seeing him sitting there taking what she was giving. I thought that was kind of shocking. He didn't even try to defend himself as far as putting his hands up or anything.
From your vantage point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Based on your observations, could you describe the demeanor of the woman with the gun?
At what point?
Let's start when she first gets out of the Jeep. What do you see?
Anger. She was like, it's almost like she was in a rage, very highly upset. So that's what caught my attention at first to make me stop, like I said, because she blocked him in. And when he hit the impact, that's what made me stop. So she was angry at first.
And what else did you observe?
Just a lot of yelling. The punching, I think, the most shocked me the most. That the repetitive punching. I mean, it was very hard. And it was like, you want to get out and help, but we didn't know what was going on. I honestly thought, maybe she was, I don't know, like a little, I don't want to say crazy, but she just seemed a little irate.
Okay. And when she pulled the gun, what was the demeanor?
Still angry. And at this point, it seemed frustrated because he wasn't complying with her.
And after the shooting, what were you able to observe the shooter do?
I saw her get on her phone. I saw her take whatever shirt she had on. If I'm not mistaken, I think she took it off. She went to her trunk and got another shirt and put that sweater or shirt on while she was on the phone, I'm assuming, with the police, I'm assuming.
I heard about that, about her changing
And
clothes.
after the shot, did you see the shooter approach the man in the truck who had been shot?
After the shot, did I see her approach the
Yes.
man in the truck?
Yes.
From what I remember, after the shot, she was on the phone and she just changed her sweater and she was just kind of walking around. But I don't remember her going back to the truck, approaching the truck again. I don't remember that.
On that date, on May the 7th of 2019, to your knowledge, had you ever seen the woman in the Jeep before?
No,
Had you ever seen the man in the truck before?
no.
And are you the only witness who stopped, or did other people stop and were milling about as law enforcement arrived?
Other people stopped. I was just the only one on my side.
That was facing the
Opposite way of
incident?
traffic, yes.
Did you know any of those other drivers?
No,
Any of the other witnesses that stopped and on scene, did you know any of those people?
no.
And did you provide police, did you stay on scene to talk to police?
Yes,
And did you provide a written statement?
yes.
And was that a lengthy written statement full of details, or tell us about the circumstances under which you wrote that statement?
No, it wasn't lengthy because I was kind of in a rush. I did write the major details of what happened.
And then did you later go to the police department for an interview and answer further questions?
Yes.
Just one moment. That's all the questions I have at this time, Ms. Russell.
Attorney Tucker, cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Ms. Foster. How are you doing today?
Good.
My name is Matt Tucker. I'm the attorney for Ms. Payne, and I have a few questions to try to clarify what's going on. Now, you said that you were coming from a different direction on the highway, correct?
Yes.
And you were in the turn lane, turning which way?
Turning left.
So on this map here, you were coming down from the top part, turning left, going the opposite way, correct?
But I didn't make it to the turn.
Okay, you didn't make it to the turn. Okay, so was there any cars in front of you, behind you?
There was one car in front of me. They slowed down, but then they continued on.
Okay. And so how far away would you say that you were from the accident or the incident here from where you were?
In yards, approximately maybe no more than 10 yards, if that.
And I noticed you mentioned yards, so you know the difference between feet and yards. Like a football field has yards and then there are feet. And you're saying you're 10 yards away from the incident.
10 or less. It was definitely no more than 10.
Okay, and you stopped, did you stop in the intersection? Did you stop before going into the intersection?
I stopped before going into the intersection. I was basically neighbors with the incident. I was right next to them.
10 yards from them, correct?
Possibly less than 10 yards. I'm not good at estimating distance.
Okay, so would you say this is 10 yards between me and you?
Maybe.
Okay, how close, if I was to step forward, would this say how close you were? Or would it be moving back? Moving back, about right here?
Maybe right at the podium, probably.
Oh, right here?
Right there. Mhm.
Okay, so, so that's how far you were, excuse me, from the incident that you saw.
Yes.
And you stated that you saw, it looked like radiation fluid coming from the truck or oil coming from the truck?
Yes.
All right, now was the truck on the other side of the Jeep or was it behind the Jeep?
The truck was in a forward-going motion. The Jeep, excuse me, came around the truck. So I guess it would be on the side of the Jeep because she blocked him in.
Yeah, if I may have. I may approach her on.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that kind of the angle that you saw, or?
That's what I was saying, the side of the Jeep. It was on the side.
These are ones of previous, and I'm showing her. Exhibit number 4 and 7. Exhibit number 4 and 7. But from what you see right there, is that a fair and accurate representation of what the accident looked like that you saw?
Yes.
Okay, and the one I showed first, the exhibit number 5, is that a fair and accurate representation of what you saw with the accident?
Yes.
Okay, is that exactly how it looked like on number 5, the first one I put down there?
Yes.
At this time, Your Honor, I would like to introduce exhibit number 5. Okay.
Any objection from the state?
No objection, Judge. Thank you.
And the other two have already been introduced. Okay. So looking at that right there, you can see that the Jeep was in front of the truck, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you were on the other side looking.
Hold on a second. Ms. Rosser, you have to articulate because the court reporter is recording
Okay.
everything, so she doesn't have the ability to record. So you have to articulate. Okay.
And you were on the other side, so you could see the Jeep before you could see the truck, correct?
Yes, but at the angle I was at, I could see both cars, of course. But yes.
If I made it correct.
Yes,
So you're saying here, coming down there and you're going to turn this way, correct? And the incident happened kind of here, correct? Or a little higher. You can stand up.
Where's the highway? I'm on this road, on the far left lane to get ready to turn left. But I didn't make it to the light to turn left because I stopped because of the incident.
So whereabouts did you stop?
When I say like right across from the incident, if I can ask a question, is this the highway? Is this where you get ready to get on the highway? Okay,
You see all that?
okay. Well, right before the turn, before you get on the highway, that's exactly where I stopped on the opposite side. So I didn't make it as far as the light to get ready to turn left. I wanted to turn left, but I didn't make it that far. So we're saying right up in here somewhere.
Okay, and where did the incident occur?
On the opposite side of where I was. So I guess over in here somewhere, right before you get ready to turn on the highway. I mean, to make the turn. So I didn't get as far as here. There was a line of cars here. So I had to be somewhere right up in here and where the incident was. I just know that he was headed towards the highway. He was in a turn lane for the highway, but she stopped it.
Okay, so nothing occurred over here,
What area?
this area down there.
No, we were on that side.
Okay. Okay, so you're saying this occurred up closer to the highway, correct?
Yes, sir, right before you get ready to get on the highway.
Or were there any medians in there before you get to the highway?
On my side or her side?
Any
On
side.
the incident side.
Any
There was
side.
a median in between my side and their side.
Okay. Did you see any vehicle jump over that median? Or any vehicle jump over the median?
I just remember her coming around, because mind you, I was approaching the incident as it was, what made me stop was her coming around the truck. So if she did jump a median, that part I did not see.
Okay.
I just saw as she came around and she blocked me.
Okay. And at any time that you're looking and seeing what's going on, did you see her jump into the window?
Jump into the window?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Okay. And at any time did you see her come out of the Jeep with a gun and hold him at gunpoint?
No, that's not how it happened.
Okay. And as you were going, you said there was a vehicle in front of you, correct? And you were watching that vehicle in front of you go out through the turn, or did they stop?
Well, not really watching them on my peripheral. I just noticed they slowed down and then they took off. They slowed down, I guess, because they saw the commotion as well, and then they sped up and went ahead and went forward. I stopped, because the whole thing was shocking.
Okay. So you stopped and you're about, say, 10 yards away from it, and you
Or
said...
less.
10 yards, I'm sorry. Okay, and you said that she didn't have the gun drawn or anything, correct?
Not when she first got out, no.
Okay. But you said you just walked up, just started beating. Okay. And Did you notice that the windows were tinted or anything like that on the truck?
The truck's windows were down.
Okay. And did you notice the race of the driver of the truck?
Yes,
Okay, what was that race?
the black.
Okay. And it was a white female that came out of the Jeep, correct?
Yes,
And you said at one point there was a vehicle that stopped that came to assist, correct?
Yes.
And you said, what was the race of the person who came out of the car? On the passenger side.
it was a white male.
Okay, who was on the driver's side?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And you said he came out to assist. Where was he at in this diagram up here, ma'am?
Easier to show it on here. Oh. He stopped. He was on the same side as the incident, and he actually stopped.
And feel free to stand up and show us if you don't mind.
He was on the driver's side, excuse me, he was on the same side as the incident, which was this lane. So he might have stopped maybe a few feet. If the incident was here, he stopped a few feet in the middle and got out and approached the young lady.
So he'd have been right there beside you or kind of
He
adjacent?
was ahead of me.
Okay, so he's ahead of you, between you and the incident, correct?
Yes,
Okay, he didn't hinder your vision in any form or
No.
fashion? Okay. And he got out and walked up and she turned around. Did you see any gun pointed at this individual?
she had the gun in her hand. He tried to approach her. Seemed like he tried to calm her down, see what was going on. Like I said, he approached her from behind. Once she turned around and he saw the gun, he threw his hands up and he got back in his car.
But she never put the gun up to put at him or
No.
point at him. Okay. And you said at this time the gun was in which hand?
At that time, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the right hand.
Okay. And she was punching with which hand?
Which time, first or second?
Anytime. You go the first, you said the first. So what time she punching?
The first time she was punching, if I'm not mistaken, with her right hand. She just, yeah, with her right hand. She just kept punching over and over.
Okay. And then when you said that she pulled the gun out, which hand she pulled the gun out with?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe she pulled the gun out with her left hand.
Her left hand.
And she pulled it out with her left hand.
Was it on her right hip or her left hip?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was on her left side. I
Okay.
think it was on her left side.
So she's punching. She goes, pulls the gun from the left side.
She wasn't punching at the time she pulled the gun. She punched. She stepped back, pulled the gun out, held the gun, then proceeded to go back to the car and began punching again.
Right. And you said she switched the gun with the hands.
I believe so.
Okay, so she pulled the left arm, she switched it up to go with the left.
To go punch again.
With
Yeah.
the left hand.
Are you saying hold the gun with the left hand or punch with the left
You
hand?
said that, and you do your words, I want you to explain it. She pulled the gun out with her left hand, and you said at one point she switched the gun
I
to
think
the other hand.
from what I remember, this was a long time ago, she pulled the gun out with her left hand, but she was holding it. Get out the car.
She was holding it with both hands.
Once he didn't comply, she came up to the car, and I believe that's when she switched hands so she could begin punching again.
And she switched hands to which hand?
I believe she switched to the left. Because if I'm not mistaken, I believe she was punching with the right hand.
Okay. And she pulled the gun with the left hand,
Because I believe it was on her left side
and then she switched it back to the left.
when she was punching.
Okay, so at one point she had it in her right hand.
Yes. You said at what point?
Yes, sir.
After she finished punching for the first time, she pulled it out, pointed the gun, and if I'm not mistaken, she had both hands on the gun. When she got ready to approach again to punch again, maybe that's what it is, the gun was switched so she could punch. So the right hand, because when she reached in the car, the gun was in that same right hand.
Okay, all right. But you remember writing a statement for the police that day, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall telling the police that she was waving the gun?
No.
If I may approach Your Honor.
When you say waving, are you saying above her head? Because you did a motion like above her head.
Hold for a second, Ms. Ross.
If I may approach your honor.
Yes, you may.
And let me explain. If I do an action or something that's not reflective of what you said, please feel free to correct it, okay?
Okay.
If you could read that real quick.
The whole thing?
No, just refresh your memory. You don't have to read it out loud, you can refresh your memory. And having read that, do you recall now saying to or writing down for the police that she was waving a gun?
Yes, I believe I used the wrong terminology.
Okay. So, but when you said it there and you said waving, what could you have possibly meant?
I meant waving in the, like this, but not above her head.
So not pointing, but waving.
Pointing the gun at the man.
Okay.
Yes.
But in the terminology used in the police report, you said waving, correct?
Yeah, I said she waved it at him.
Okay. And do you recall, so you said that even though you were 10 yards possibly, maybe shorter, you said there was another individual got out of his car to try to help.
Yes.
Okay. How far was he from her?
When he got out of the car or when he stopped the car?
Either one. Both of them. How about that?
When he stopped the car, it was approximately, because my eyes was focused mainly on her and the man in the truck. But I did see him stop. So I would say approximately, maybe 20, 30 feet, maybe.
Okay. And now you were using yards earlier. Is there any possible way to say how many yards?
Okay. Maybe 5.
Okay, so he's been a little closer to this than say not this far.
Mm-hmm. Give or take.
Okay. And at that point, you said he walked up behind Miss Payne, correct?
Yes.
So you couldn't see what Miss Payne was doing because he obstructed your vision,
He didn't
correct?
obstruct my vision.
He didn't?
Mm-mm.
How big of a man was he?
How big of a man was
Yeah,
he?
what that individual that you said came out to us to.
Maybe 6 feet, but he never stepped in front of me.
Okay, but you were saying she was right there at the window punching.
On my side, I could see her. He stopped ahead.
Okay, when he walked up, you said behind her, correct?
Yeah, her back was turned to him as he was approaching her.
So you could see through him to see her?
He never obstructed my view. He was ahead of me. I'm here, he's coming this way, but I'm stopped right here.
Okay,
so he never obstructed my view.
So he's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and he's coming back and she's in front of you. Okay,
To my side. Let me-
just because I'm having a problem with this, could you show me again on the diagram right there exactly where they were and you were?
Okay. If I'm in this far turn lane here, the incident is on the opposite side of me. He may have stopped here and got out the car, stopped the car here, but he got he got out and began to approach. So that's why he never obstructed my view, because I'm here.
Okay. Did you have, thank you. Did you have a green light to turn? Because you said the car in front of you went forward, right?
Oh yeah, the green light changed about 2 or 3 times. I never moved.
Okay. And you're saying that the individual came through the intersection and stopped, or did he stop in the intersection?
A little past the intersection.
And you don't recall if the light was green or red or?
At that time, no.
Okay. And he coming from behind the incident, came up behind him, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then he got back into his car.
Yes.
All right. Did he ever leave that scene?
After he got in the car, they took off.
They took off. How'd they go around the incident?
Well, it wasn't, remind you, the incident happened in the far right lane. So we still had, I think, 2 lanes that were open, 2 or 3 lanes that were open.
So it would have been easy for any car kind of to get around this incident, correct?
Yes, if
I mean,
they weren't stopped too close.
Okay. So they
Yes.
could have gone around the left or they could have gone around the right, correct?
No, they couldn't have gone around the right. The right is the median. But they could have gone around the left.
Okay. Okay.
If they would have went around the right, they would have been in the grass to go around it. But if they would have run around the left, there was a 1 or 2 lanes, I believe, that's already open.
Okay, so, but the grass had no median, had no barrier, had no concrete to stop them from going in the grass, correct?
A curve.
A curve, it did have a curve?
There was a curve on the right side of the incident, yes.
Okay, you want if I may approach? And you said these were where they were at. This.
Can you speak up?
Okay, I was just pointing to her that where the incident occurred, that she's already verified as where it was. I showed her where the truck was and what would be considered the right side. Looking at
For clarification, Attorney Tucker, just make sure you refer to the exhibit.
defense exhibit number 7. Is it 7 was or
4.
4? Okay. So defense exhibit number 4. You can see the truck, correct?
Yes,
And you can see to the right of the truck, correct?
yes.
And what is located on the right of the truck?
The sidewalk and the curb.
And is there grass?
There's grass.
Okay, and there is no median there, correct?
No
On the
median,
right
just a
side.
curve.
Okay. So you're stating, and on the other side, is there any median or curve?
Not immediately on the left, no.
Okay. So that was the area that was clear that cars could go around,
And that's how that car proceeded.
and that car didn't stay around to give a statement?
Not that I know of.
But the gentleman got out and felt compelled to help, and then got back in his car and just drove off?
Yeah, after she turned around with the gun in his hand, I think it kind of spooked him. That's why he got back in the car.
But he didn't stay around to give an account of what happened?
Not that I know of. I saw him get back in the car. Whoever was driving, they pulled off. If they stopped down the road, I'm not sure.
Okay. And you said from your view, you could see the face of the driver of the truck?
Yeah, I could see his face.
Okay. And you said that you saw hands only on the outside of the truck punching, correct?
Could you repeat that?
You saw hands on the outside of the truck being punched.
Yeah, I just saw her throwing punches.
Okay. But you stated earlier you saw the punches were hitting him in the chest.
Yes.
Okay. And you stated you didn't see any of his hands.
His hand?
Yes.
No, that's what shocked me, made me stay there, because he wasn't fighting back.
And was that shocking that somebody wouldn't use their hands to block or to roll up the window?
You saying, is it shocking that somebody would do that?
That you said it was shocking what you saw.
Because he wasn't fighting back. Yeah.
Okay, so because he didn't use his hands or because he didn't roll up the window, that's what you felt was shocking.
Yes.
Okay. And you said that she was really punching hard, right?
Yes.
So punching that hard would have left a mark or a scrape or some kind of bruise, correct?
As hard as she was punching.
Speculation at this point. She doesn't know what kind of mark would have been left. She can only describe what she saw. She can't say or speculate as to what the outcome of that would be.
And I can qualify that. I can rephrase it to qualify that question.
Okay, I will sustain the objection and ask you to requalify.
Right. So you said that she was punching real hard, correct? Have you ever seen somebody else punch real hard like that?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see the results of when somebody was punching that hard?
No, it was online.
Okay. So, from your view and from your opinion, she was punching real hard.
That's what shocked me the most, yes.
Okay. And you stated earlier that it was punching him in the chest?
From my vantage point, that's what it looked like the punches were landed on his chest.
Okay. Did it ever look like a punch in the face or
Never
anything?
saw one in the face, no sir.
Right. So when you say on the chest, was he leaning back in
No,
the
he
car
was-
where he's sitting?
Actually, he was sitting up in the truck in his chair, but just taking them. You could just see, you know, I could see his body taking the punches, but I never saw it in the face.
Okay. So here's the window here, correct?
Okay?
And if he was driving, he would be facing this way, correct?
Yes.
And she's punching from this direction, correct?
Yes, the driver's side. Yes.
How in the world is she coming around and hit him in the chest?
I mean, you have two sides of your chest. It was close. I'm assuming the one closest to the window, that's where she was punching.
So she wasn't hitting him in the shoulder, it was the chest.
It looked like the chest was taking the hits. I mean, but she was just wailing. Some could have hit in the shoulder, but it was never in the face. It was always below the chin. That's what I saw.
How did she get around the shoulder? From your viewpoint, it didn't
The
look
shoulder
like it
is
was
right
hitting
there
him.
by the door, so she could have possibly punched the shoulder and the chest. It was just, I never saw her hitting him in the face. It was just his chest.
Okay. And do you recall making any other statements about this incident to the media, to the detectives in an interview?
No, I declined.
You never talked to the detectives in the interview?
The detectives, but not the media.
Okay. So, do you recall speaking to the detective?
Yes.
Do you recall what date that was that you talked to him?
I'm not sure, but it might have been June.
Might have been June, so it was a lot longer than being right there at the incident, correct?
A lot longer, but it was definitely after the incident.
The incident happened on May 7th.
Mm-hmm.
If that helps you qualify.
I don't remember the exact date, but it was definitely a week or so or more after the incident.
Okay. So, and you recall speaking to the detectives, correct?
Yes.
All right. In those statements, did you give any accounts different than what you're giving now?
No, just more detailed.
Okay. And your detail was that he hit the car before she got out of the car, correct?
It was almost to the point where he had no choice but to hit her because she blocked him in.
Okay.
Like he was trying to take off forward, and she
Okay.
stopped that forward progress.
So she's coming around, and he hit her. He didn't stop and then hit her, or did?
Well, he was at a stop, but he was taking off to get ready to proceed. But as he was doing it, she came around, and I think that's when the collision happened.
Okay, so your testimony is that he hit her before she got out of the car. He hit her Jeep before she got out of the car.
Yes, she blocked the truck. Yes, before she got out of the car.
But the impact was, as you said, continuously to hit. It wasn't a stop and then he hit her.
No, he was stopped. Like I said, he was stopped, but he was proceeding to go forward. She came around, and as he was going forward, that's when the impact happened.
Okay, and I don't want to keep, so the impact was continuous as he's coming around. Like you said, he was stopped with it. He came forward as she was coming around. So as she's coming around, the hit happened then, correct?
Almost like he couldn't help it, yes.
Okay. And that's when she came out of the car, just immediately started hitting him.
She got out of the car yelling first before she started hitting him.
And what was she yelling?
I couldn't hear what she was yelling. I just know she was yelling at him.
Okay. And I noticed that at one point you said that you stayed in your car, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you rolled your window down so you could hear what was going on, correct?
Yes.
Did you call 911 at that time?
I was in shock.
Okay. Did you think you should have called 911 at that time?
I seen other people on their phone, so I figured they were calling 911.
Right, so You're paying attention to the car in front of you that's going through the intersection, right?
Peripheral, because I was
Okay.
looking at them the whole
And you're
time.
paying attention to people around you calling 911.
Not while I was watching the incident.
Okay, I asked.
That was my focus.
I asked you a specific question. When you were watching this incident, did you feel that you needed to call 911 and your response was, I saw other people on the phone? Okay, so you're watching the other people.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. And you're saying clearly that the gun was not pulled until after she's up on the window, correct?
The gun was not pulled until after she punched him and she backed away from the window.
But my specific question was, she didn't come out with the gun pulled. She went to the vehicle first. The gun was not pulled.
No,
Okay.
He's really good
And
at that,
you didn't hear what
Gail.
was being
He's really good at
exchanged back and
asking
forth, did you?
not at that time until I rolled the window down.
the same things over and over.
And you stated what kind of shirt was she wearing that day before you said she changed her?
If I'm not mistaken, I'm not really sure, but I think it was a white shirt, possibly. Long sleeve, maybe. I'm not sure. I just remember it was a pink sweater.
No, not that she went to her car and changed it to. I'm
Initially,
talking
what she had
initially.
on. I'm not sure. I think it might have been a white shirt,
A white shirt. Okay, long sleeve.
possibly.
Okay. Do you recall what the shirt looked like before she went to her vehicle and put another one on?
No,
Okay. But you were watching everything that was going on, correct?
yes,
Because it shocked you want to see what was happening.
yes,
Okay. And you stated, and I think in your report you stated to the detectives that she went and put a pink sweater on, correct?
yes,
Okay. And then you said you're not sure why she did that.
yes.
Okay. Well, why was that something that kind of stuck in your head?
Because it was odd.
It was odd that she went and put a sweater on.
Among, with what was happening, yes, it was odd.
Okay. But you didn't see the first shirt that, did she take that first shirt off before putting the sweater on?
I can't recall.
Did she have anything in her hands as she was putting that sweater on?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe at that time she had her cell phone.
Okay. And did you see where the cell phone was during this whole occurrence?
No,
And, but she never, as she was there beside the vehicle, she didn't go back and get the cell phone, did she?
I don't recall.
Okay. Did you recall if there was anything on the ground around her as she was beside the truck?
No, I don't recall.
Okay. But you don't recall where she pulled the phone from, correct?
No,
Okay.
I was still in shock.
And you say shock, so you're in shock. Did that compromise what you're looking at or what you're going to perceive it to be?
No, it just made me stare at the victim.
All right, scared for the victim. In what way?
It made, excuse me. It just made me stare at him because I kept saying to myself, I hope she don't shoot him. And when I heard the gunshot, he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he just had this look on his face. So that's what I was staring at. But
And you stated that there were a lot of people around there. If you need to take a moment to take a sip of water, you can.
Okay.
Okay. So you said there were a lot of people around there calling 911, correct? And you stayed there to talk to the police or call 911, correct?
yes,
Okay. But at no time did you see the individual that got out of the car to go up and assist. You never saw him again, right?
no.
Okay.
Attorney Tucker, one moment. Let Ms. Rosser have a minute.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We'll resume when you're ready.
All right. Now, and I won't harp on this much more, but the individual that pulled up, the white guy that got out to walk up there, you didn't see him after the incident walking up speaking to the police by the name of Erickson?
No, I didn't see him.
Did you see anybody there that, when they were speaking with the police, that could have possibly been named Erickson?
No, I'm not sure. No.
Okay. But he was with somebody else in that vehicle?
Yes.
Correct? Okay. And you were in the car by yourself, correct?
Yes.
And what you perceived to be her reaching in there trying to unlock the door, open the door, you didn't see really if she was grabbing the lock or not, or was she grabbing the handle in the front of the door or the lock at the back?
She was grabbing the handle on the driver's side in the front.
So the handle would be on the front of the door in there?
Yes.
Okay. But you said you couldn't see anything further than that because there's a
Because of the panel of the door.
panel of the door. Okay. And that is I don't know if it's Tinder or not. Let me approach real quick.
4, 5, 7.
And that written statement right there, is that a true and correct accusation or accurate picture of what you filled out that day?
Yes.
Is that your signature at the bottom?
Yes.
At this time, Your Honor, I would tender Defense Exhibit number 9 into evidence.
Any objection? Admitted without objection.
And one more question. So, the individual that walked up there to assist the white guy, did anybody walk behind him and grab him and pull him back to the car, or did he turn around and walk himself?
From what I remember, I believe he turned around and walked himself. I think the gun scared him. He walked away.
So nobody else from that vehicle came out and kind of pulled him back?
Not that I remember.
No further questions.
And redirects from the state.
No further questions for Ms. Rosser, Judge.
Okay, may Ms. Rosser be excused at this time? Yes. Okay, thank you, Ms. Rosser. You may step down.
She got a wee bit choked up there.
Does the state have another witness that it?
We said we had to send that witness home based on the technology not working. All of the remaining witnesses that we had.
We need
all
the technology.
depend on the technology that is not functioning.
Okay, so counsels, please approach.
Did she say all the witnesses that we have have testimonies that depend on technology that she doesn't have? Is that what she said? I couldn't tell if that's what she sounded like. That's what she said, but I couldn't really tell. You guys, a while ago, Dale comes in here and he's like, I've lost my phone. He went to town, came back, and he's like, I've lost my phone. I'm like, what do you mean you've lost your phone? Did you lose it in town? And he's like, no, I don't think I even took it to town. I think I left it here. And so I called his phone 25 million times. And finally, he found it in my recliner. And I had to jump up and get a snack. I had to get a snack. I had to get another slice of cheese. I love cheese. Anybody else in here love dairy? Anybody else in here love dairy? Raise your hands. I love dairy. I ate the cheese and then I had more coffee. I do have water too, in case you guys think I never drink water. I have water. I do have water. So, yay for water, and yay for coffee, and yay for cheese. Deborah, I know. I mean, I keep going like brain dead when he starts talking and asking questions. It's like my brain just starts wandering, and I can't concentrate.
You are aware that earlier we had some technical challenges, and so we are going to need the technology for the other witnesses. I'm going to release you for the evening, which is the good news, and bring you back tomorrow, I would say 8:30, just so that we can start at 9 o'clock. And hopefully by that time, we should be able to fix whatever technological challenges we're having in the courtroom. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you for your attention. And we're adjourned for the evening. Again, and I know you're going to get tired of me saying the same instructions apply. Do not discuss the case with anyone. Do not do any independent research. And you're adjourned for the evening. Thank you.
So, yes, you guys love cheese too. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, it is their job. Tammy said, I guarantee the prosecution prepared them before trial. Yeah, they did. I mean, they always do. That's what they are supposed to do, you know? That's what they're paid for. Part of the reason what they're paid for anyway. String cheese is your favorite. I love string cheese too. But I like any kind of cheese. Cheese is my jam in all shapes and forms, says Gail. I love it. It gives me life. I'm like, I could do without ice cream and all that, but I love sour cream.
Is there anything further that we need to
Cream
address
cheese.
before we adjourn?
Cheese.
Okay. All right, so the court stands adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow. Hope everybody will get some rest, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, you guys. So that's it for today. They called it an early day, right? It's not even 3 p.m. yet. So, the Jesse Keski sentencing literally just happened. Do you guys want to peek in on that real quick? Or nah? I want to see her sentencing. And I also want to watch, hold on a minute. I also want to watch, goat cheese. You don't like goat cheese? I like goat cheese. Blue cheese and Limburger. So yeah, I want to watch that. Let me go find it. Let me find it. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, hold on. I gotta go search it. Crying. Crying. I bet she's crying. Because, goodness knows, she bawled like a baby whenever she was found guilty. She did. Okay, I don't see it here. Okay, here we go. I found it. Okay, so and I love Judge Jennifer Darrow. She's my favorite judge. My favorite female judge, anyway. Like, love, love, love her so much. Can you guys hear Eli? He's in there listening to which one of the Christmas movies is it? Christmas cartoons is it? That's the Misfit Toys. Because he's in there watching that right now. Why don't I fit in? Cracks me up. Give me a chunk of smoked Gouda and crackers and I'm good. Yum. All right. So watch live. Eye drop. Let me share. Oh, is it Rudolph? I always forget. They all kind of like blend in together. And for me. Share. Here we go. Little Miss Eye Drop Murderer. Okay. So we've got that up. And I will unmute it and make it big. Okay. Oh, he has been wanting to use that smoker, right? I know. I pushed play. I thought. There we go, maybe. You and me. You guys don't even know. Eli literally jams this house 24/7 with loud, loud music. It is my life. All right. Where does it start? I have such a delay on whenever I share the screen like this and I try to delay the lag or latency or what, I don't know what you call it. It's a lot. So it showed an empty courtroom. I see a jailer or a bailiff or what, I'm not sure what they're called. But let's speed it up a little. Let's get this clock ticking fast. So I had heard yesterday that Jesse's two attorneys, that Donna Kuklier and then Pablo Galavez, I think, both was like, we're done, we're out, we're not fooling with this one no more. So I don't know if that's going to be addressed here today, if they're still her lawyers, because apparently, according to the last word, they were still listed on her case. So I don't know what happened. Okay, looks like they're getting ready to bring her out. Hi, babe. He's waving, but he's not speaking. Somebody said I needed a sign that says on air or something. I think it was Lee yesterday said I needed an on air sign. Oh, okay, yeah. Sounds good. Got some girly cops. I always love to see women in uniform like that. Who are these guys? Okay, I know that guy, the one that just walked past. He's part of the prosecution. Is this guy that one right there, is he the one that interviewed Jesse? I forget his name. I think he was the main, like, investigator. I think that's him. And if I'm not mistaken, his name is Detective Hoppy. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to speed through it. La 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 la. Oh, here she comes. Here she comes. Let me make sure my audio is. Yeah, it is. There she is. Oh, goodness. What'd they do? Did she about miss her chair? Did you see that? She's like, oops. I gotta rewind that. Yeah, that's the Galavez lawyer. That's the Pablo is his name. But I don't see Donna Kukler. Kukler. Hold on, I gotta watch her about fall out of her seat again. Was that mean? Am I being mean right now? Watch. Watch her. When she goes to sit down, she about misses her seat. Oh, yep. They pull the chair out for her to sit down and she just about misses it. Oopsie. Oopsie daisy. Oh, well. Why do I get Walmart deliveries sometimes, but it says not available on the app? Rude. Yeah, I know. That makes me mad. I wish we could get groceries delivered, Shelby, but we don't. I know. Ooh, Gail's doing dishes. So much fun. He asks different ways, then he asks follow-up. Abigail left and came back. Gail had to come back from the kitchen for that. Oh, I think we heard audio. I hear audio. I heard audio, I thought. So, Abigail, we decided to peep in on Miss Jesse Keski here. She's the one that murdered her supposed best friend with eye drops. I followed this case pretty big. Yeah. This was one of those cases where I was literally like on the fence. Like I was like, what if? You know, because the defense's story was that Lynn Hernan had taken her own life with the eye drops. Like she was trying to do that with the eye drops because nothing else was working. I don't know. Anyway, long story, but that was a really good. I'm not hearing any audio. Are you guys? Now I am. And it sounds very wonky.
Court will call State of Wisconsin versus Jesse Keski, 21 CF 885. May I have the appearances, please?
Good afternoon, Judge Randy Sitzberger, Abby Nikolai, and JJ Crawford for the state.
Donna Kukler is here.
Oh, Donna Kukler is there.
And Ms. Kraszewski.
You can tell by her voice she don't want to be there.
Scheduled for sentencing today.
late last week, the court received the first of 2 motions to withdraw from the defense team. Since that time, I've also had a response filed by the state, and then a response to that filed by Attorney Kukler's office. This, of course, all followed on the 30th the filing by the state of what it labeled as sentencing materials. Now, I've had an opportunity to review those sentencing materials. Today, in preparation for that, I did ask my clerk, Teresa, to send an email to the parties indicating I wanted to review the original documents. I thought that was important given how those documents were described and what is at issue with the motions to withdraw. The state did that. Those were dropped off at my chambers initially, and I just want to make a record of this. All 3 of the state's attorneys and the 2 detectives were there, and I indicated I wouldn't talk to anyone without defense being present. I thought that would not be proper, and they indicated they understood. It's my understanding that there was an attempt to get a hold of both Attorney Galaviz and Attorney Kukler, and they were not available, and so they all left, and I indicated I'd let them know when I was done reviewing the documents so that they could go back to them. They were in a large paper bag, very apparent to me that it's being maintained as evidence. All of the individual pages were in plastic so that I could easily read through both sides, and was able to see what I believe, and I'll get confirmation of this, is the original envelope the state received the documents in. Anything the state would want to add to how I've described the receipt of the materials?
The only thing I would add briefly is that I did personally call Attorney Kukler. She answered at her office and said she was very busy and would not be able to make it, and that she was okay leaving the documents with Your Honor. I then tried to contact Attorney Galaviz and got his voicemail, but given the timeliness of it, we chose just to leave the documents with you and leave, as you stated.
Right. Attorney Kukler, since you were contacted, is there anything you would want to add to the record about that?
No, thank you.
I think it's important that
This is the eye drop murder case, the Jesse Keski who killed her friend, Lynn Hernan. This is her sentencing. It just happened a while ago.
some questions. I don't think, at least at this moment, I have
But her judge or her
actual record to really
lawyers
make a determination.
filed a motion to be
Attorney Kukler
withdrawn from the case.
Attorney Galaviz filed a motion. There's some reference to ethical considerations, but none have been identified. I've done my homework. I've very meticulously gone through my Supreme Court rules. I think I've identified what might be potential issues or provisions of the Supreme Court rules. But I think it's important to note for everyone here, for Ms. Kershevsky, for the victim, for both parties, for the public, that motions that are brought before a court must comply with 80201. I don't think any of these motions do. Certainly no affidavits that have been filed. There's all conclusory statements that are made. I have denied many motions over the course of my career for failing to state a claim upon which relief can be granted when a litigant, whether pro se or by an attorney, doesn't present the request in a proper way. Now, it's pretty clear to me that, the parties have responded to those filings, the state filing first and then one in response, and given the nature of what's contained in the 37-page document, I have an idea, but I still need the defense attorneys to put forth a very particular basis. You could have filed an affidavit under seal if there was a concern. It should not be left to the court to guess or to assume what ethical prohibitions or ethical requirements you believe are at issue. The only thing, for example, Attorney Kugler, in your motion from your office is that it says professional considerations mandate. So what professional considerations mandate and what offer of proof can you provide to this court that, of course, is consistent with your ethical obligations? And when you address that, I need to also know to what extent you've discussed this with Ms. Kershevsky and what position, if any, she has regarding the request. So I'll start with you and then I'll turn to Attorney Galaviz.
I did have a conversation with Ms. Krzyzewski by video conference or telephone conference, one or the other, and did explain it to her. And it's my understanding that Attorney Galaviz also discussed it, and she does not object to the withdrawal. The court, if you've seen the filings, you can see that there's an allegation within the, well, okay, taking one step back, when I was provided with copies of those documents and observed the originals, I was informed by the state that they believed that these documents were not mailed, but were drafted by our client.
I know, right, Elizabeth? I am in love with this judge. I've watched her in two different
Person who the envelope is addressed to dropped at her house by somebody.
cases, two or
It
three.
didn't arrive there by the mail. And
She-
the suggestion within the documents is that, and the court, of course, could read that there's a request, and I'm not saying that these documents were drafted by Ms. Krzyzewski, but the state alleges that
There's
they
an
were.
allegation.
They allege they were.
Elizabeth,
And
Steph
if
thinks you're
so,
talking about the other
Ms.
one
Krzyzewski
in
has
the
requested
Hannah
that,
case.
this person who received this envelope that was dropped off at their home engage in what would be, I would say, illegal behavior. And
Really?
the suggestion also is that, without naming the attorney, that her attorney supports, or made the reference to, the attorney supports this request by Ms. Krzyzewski. And the attorney's not named. And there are only two attorneys that I know of on the case. And so,
What ethical provisions do you believe govern this conduct that you believe creates the conflict of interest?
This judge was over the Darrell
I think there's an
Brooks,
actual conflict
Wisconsin,
because I've got, the potential
Christmas
of
parade
being an actual witness in the matter
trial.
that has been submitted, because I know what the facts are of certain things, and I'm an actual witness. Some of the documents that were submitted are handwritten documents from trial. They're on the back side of handwritten documents from trial. I'm an actual witness to many things that are discussed either in the trial with the handwritten notes and questions that were asked and so on. So I don't know how I can, when there's a possible allegation of professional misconduct, because that would certainly be professional misconduct if I somehow took an envelope from Ms. Krzyzewski and knowingly delivered it to somebody, knowing that there was a request that that person commit a violation of the law. That would be illegal and a professional misconduct. So
You think?
that's why I'm asking. I believe withdrawal is mandatory.
Now, I know in your motion, you cited the permissive provision of the rules of professional responsibility under 20:1.16 sub B.
Kel, I
indicating
will.
that there would not be actual prejudice because Attorney Galaviz would remain on. And obviously, he's now filed a motion himself.
Right, and so at this point, I would Site 220:1.16A1.
Are you aware of any filing or request that any Office of Lawyer Regulation look into any of the conduct that's described in the filing from the state, this 37-page filing?
I haven't been contacted by the Office of Lawyer Regulation at this point in time.
Before I turn to Attorney Galaviz to get his take on some of this, I need to know from the state, you take great pains into, kind of painting this picture that you're no way, putting anything on any of these attorneys. I very clearly understand the state's position in terms of who you think wrote this, but this filing leaves a lot of questions for the court. I don't know how this person who turned this over, I don't know who it is. I know there's some names on it. I don't know if that's the actual individuals. I don't know if you're doing or if law enforcement is investigating this for any potential criminal violations, whether it's a conspiracy or anything like that. So I need a little bit more information from the state as to, how this information was turned over to authorities, and then how it came to the court.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I'll just give a full recitation of how the state came to be in possession of these documents. On Monday, November 27th, Detective Plennis emailed the state's 3 prosecutors here and notified us of this document that was dropped off at the Sheriff's Department approximately 3:00 a.m. on that Sunday, November 26th.
That lawyer right there, that
Dropped
dude,
off by
he's
the person
like,
whose name was
he looks
on
like he's
the
12 years old.
receiving part of the folder, who we've redacted. It is a woman who Detective Plennis has spoken to and has learned that that person served at least a brief amount of time in the Waukesha County Jail with Ms. Keski. We believe that individual was present for at least one day, if not more than one day, of the trial here, who had visits at the jail with Ms. Keski by video, not in-person contacts, and had phone contacts with Ms. Keski through Ms. Keski's jail phone calls. So that individual basically was a person who was trying to support Ms. Keski insofar as she knew what it was to be a criminal defendant and know what it was to either not have a great deal of support or need support, and wanted to support Ms. Keski while the trial was going on. She came home on the 25th of November, that Saturday, and was informed that this package had been dropped off with her. She has apparently a service through the mail where she was able to determine it was not delivered by the Postal Service, but somebody dropped it off in the envelope that Your Honor has seen. We took note, obviously, with that story that the envelope, though it does have 2 stamps on it, not counting the Waukesha County Jail stamp, there are no Postal Service markings over those stamps, as you would typically see if it went through the post office. She began reading through the documents, became very concerned, was not sure what to do with them. She contacted her attorney from her previous criminal cases, who advised her to turn them into the Sheriff's Department. Detective Plennis was notified, I believe, early on that Sunday morning that these had been received, and of course he notified us, as I mentioned before. There is an ongoing investigation into how these materials came from the jail and became delivered. We don't know. I think it's fair to say we don't believe the allegation in the, I'll call it, cover letter of these 37 pages that this was one of the attorney's ideas. I believe that's another red herring or untruth by Ms. Keski is our position. I can say with certainty that the attorneys themselves are not under investigation. There is an investigation into trying to figure out how these documents came from the jail without going through the U.S. Post Office and came to be at the recipient's address. That's the extent of what we know at this time.
I mean, in looking at these documents, I noticed there was no postmark. There's a stamp on an envelope that says this letter has been mailed from Waukesha County Jail with a date stamp. I don't know if you've been able to look at that to know if that's a legitimate way that they stamp it.
I'm sorry to cut you. That is a legitimate way the jail stamps envelopes. One thing the detectives are looking into is whether that came from within the jail. It is possible, perhaps, that somebody ordered a stamp to look like that. Detective Plennis did confirm that this envelope did not go through the Postal Service by talking to the postmaster, I believe. One other thing I'll point out is that envelope that it was received in was folded in half. There was a crease down the middle of it, while the paperwork inside of it was not creased, which would perhaps indicate that the envelope itself may have been included in a mailing, and that papers were put into it later. That's a possibility.
And just to, I guess, summarize, because these were some of the questions that I thought were important to my determination here today. The individual whose name that I saw unredacted in the original evidence, shall we say, that came over to me this morning, that has been identified as the actual person who received it with connections to Ms. Kershevsky and may have, in fact, attended the trial on one or more days.
Yes.
Don't know how the information got to her other than it was dropped off, and or how the information that the 37 pages
That's interesting.
if it did at all.
Correct.
Is it the state's position that there is no conflict of interest based upon the contents of this letter?
Yes. My position is that if this were to create a mandatory withdrawal because of the conflict of interest, then why wouldn't anybody who doesn't like their attorney anymore simply accuse them of wrongdoing, right? They could easily come into court and say, my lawyer told me to lie on the stand, and so I get a new attorney now. It would be too simple. There's nothing, this is a baseless one-liner in 37 pages that says one of my attorneys came up with this idea. I'm paraphrasing. But there's no evidence behind that. And I do think it's important to know what I noted in my moving papers, that Ms. Kershevsky has absolutely denied being the one to write this. So as far as representing her at this point, it's my position that the defense team need only put that forth to the court that says, you shouldn't consider these because my client says she didn't write them. And the court can decide whether you consider them or not. Obviously, we have a very different position on what these are and who authored them, but that's Ms. Kershevsky's position. I think this would all be different if Ms. Kershevsky said, yeah, I wrote it, and one of my attorneys did tell me. That would absolutely be a conflict. But right now, there's no conflict presented because she's saying she didn't write them. And so it doesn't put the attorneys in a bind where they have to defend themselves. It doesn't put them in a position where they have to implicate her to save their ethical considerations. There's a very easy way that I put forth already that they can zealously defend her by putting forth her own position on this pile of letters.
Attorney Galaviz, I'll turn to you next and ask you if you can provide some specificity as to what ethical rules do you believe are being implicated by this, and what is the actual conflict of interest based on this filing?
Judge, all I can tell you is I looked at the filing by the state, document 567, contacted the state bar ethics, ran it by them. They said I should withdraw the case. That's all I'm going to say.
But right now, there's no conflict presented because she's saying she didn't write them. And so it doesn't put the attorneys in a bind where they have to defend themselves. It doesn't put them in a position where
Sorry,
they have to
I just had to
implicate her
rewind that for a
save their
second because I need to hear
ethical
what he said again.
considerations. There's a very easy way that I put forth already, that they can zealously defend her by putting forth her own position on this pile
Sorry.
of letters.
Attorney Galaviz, I'll turn to you next and ask you if you can provide some specificity as to what ethical rules do you believe are being implicated by this, and what is the actual conflict of interest based on this filing?
Judge, all I can tell you is I looked at the filing by the state, document 567, contacted the state bar ethics, ran it by them, they said I should withdraw the case. That's all I'm gonna say.
Wowee. I bet he does not want to be sitting there next to her. He did not look happy.
When I look at SCR 20:1.16 that deals with declining or terminating representation, there is a section of that under a little bit kind of odd how it's numbered, but there's a small a at the beginning, and then subs 1, 2, 3, and then under 3, there's in parentheses a B, which I believe is the provision for which both of you are seeking to withdraw, that states, except as stated in paragraph sub C, a lawyer may withdraw from representing a client if, 1, withdrawal can be accomplished without material adverse effect on the interest of the client. 2, the client persists in a course of action involving the lawyer's services that the lawyer reasonably believes is criminal or fraudulent. 3, the client has used the lawyer's services to perpetuate a crime or fraud. 4, the client insists upon taking action that the lawyer considers repugnant or with which the lawyer has a fundamental disagreement. And if you look further down, there's an or. So it's not that all of these things need to be shown, it's an or. I mean, I don't have the
That's
benefit of
highly
knowing
unlikely
the basis for
that
what
she
you think
didn't
is the
write it.
conflict, other than there's this letter, it says not so nice things, but that's all. I have a denial, apparently, at least what the state is saying, that your client denies writing this. I mean, I could come up with a lot of scenarios where, you know, obviously many people watch this trial. Anyone could take notes. I took time looking through all of this filing, and, you know, I think there might be some circumstantial evidence, if you will, that perhaps Jesse Keski is the author. There's content, there are the trial notes, there's other things, you know, but I don't know that anyone can definitively say that at this point in time. I don't even know if I should even consider this. I mean, that's one of the things. If I simply say, I'm striking this from the record, I will not consider it, based upon the uncertainty and the ongoing investigation, how is there any conflict of interest?
May I speak?
No, not yet. You are still represented by counsel, and you
Judge,
need
some
to
of them
talk to
wanna
them
speak
first.
about.
No, hold on.
Judge, some of those papers in there have our handwritten notes on them. We know our own writing.
Well, I don't know that, do I?
But well, I'm telling you now.
But see, that's where an affidavit would have been really, really helpful.
Boy, I gotta rewind it, guys. Sorry. Hold on. I gotta hear that again.
And avoid what I'm doing here in court on the record. More than I'm heard about. No, hold on.
Judge, some of those papers in there have.
Well, is it gonna play?
Consider it. Based upon the uncertainty and the ongoing investigation, how is there any conflict of interest?
May I speak?
No, not yet. You are still represented by counsel, and you
Judge,
need
some
to
of them
talk to
wanna
them
speak
first.
about.
No, hold on.
Judge, some of those papers in there have our handwritten notes on them. We know our own writing.
Well, I don't know that, do I?
But well, I'm telling you now.
But see, that's where an affidavit would have been really, really helpful. Could have been filed under seal. Could have given me more information and avoid what I'm doing here in court on the record.
Understood. We recognize some of our own notes from trial.
All right, so you believe at least a part of that filing that has what appear to be trial notes were contemporaneously done during the trial, and you recognize your own handwriting on some of it?
Yes.
All right. You know, I've taken a look at also the confidentiality requirements that are applicable to both of you. There are some limited exceptions to what I would term as the confidentiality requirements between an attorney and a client. Some fall under a shall and some fall under a may. And even if I look under, and it's the SCR 20:1.6, says sub C, a lawyer may reveal information relating to the representation of a client to the extent the lawyer reasonably believes necessary. Sub 1 does not apply. There's not death or substantial bodily harm that you would be preventing. You wouldn't be preventing, mitigating, or rectifying substantial injury to another person. But here's where I think you could potentially be required, or at least asked to reveal, when it would be to prevent, mitigate, or rectify substantial injury to the financial interest or property of another that is reasonably certain to result or has resulted from the client's commission of a crime or fraud in furtherance of which the client has used the lawyer's services. Even
Yeah,
if you
like
believe
speak
there's some
English.
unwitting, use of your services. The fact that part of these crimes for which your client now stands convicted involves theft from the estate and there's a pending probate case, I think one could argue that what's in this letter, if true, because I think for purposes of the motion, I have to assume that it's true. I don't think I kind of give you all the benefit. It's just for purposes of the withdrawal, Ms. Krzyzewski, right? Your attorneys have asked to withdraw. I have to base it on some facts. And hold on.
I haven't had representation in the last week though, and I need to be able to
Ms.
speak to that.
Krzyzewski, now's not the time. You will be given an opportunity, but I need to have facts upon which this decision of mine, which is a very important decision, be made. Counsel and defendants oftentimes have a disagreement on strategy. Relationships fall apart. That does not always mean that attorneys are allowed to withdraw. Because as Attorney Sitzberger has pointed out, it would be so simple and it'd lead to absurd results if every time a defendant raised an allegation, whether it be an ethics complaint or criminal activity, if that were enough, we'd never have criminal defense attorneys, right? So there has to be something more. I'm concerned in this case because of the fact there's not a postmark on this envelope. And I'm concerned that there is an ongoing investigation as to whether it came from the jail, whether it came from you or someone else. There's other things it could be. Like I said, there's, a lot of people watch the trial. I now know that your attorneys recognize their own handwriting. That's very concerning to the court because very few people would have had access to that. And I have to be concerned with the integrity of these. I read the cases that the that the defense cited, and in particular, State versus Miller. There's a difference when ineffective assistance of counsel and a conflict of interest is raised in a post-conviction proceeding, and what a defendant or an attorney, or even in the Miller case, there's a discussion of when the state raises a concern with counsel. And that in that circumstance, which is really not what we're dealing with here, that it can't just be fabricated to get, counsel off of a case when there's an adversary that, the state might think is formidable. That's what it's talked about in that case. But this is raised prior to sentencing. And I believe the case law is pretty darn clear that if I can find there's an actual conflict of interest or a serious potential conflict of interest, then I have to presume there's prejudice. That means I create a situation, if I make all of those findings, that cast doubt on the entire sentencing hearing if I force attorneys Kukler and Galavis to stay on. That's what we're dealing with right here. And for everyone, the court now, I'm right here with everyone. Is it frustrating? Absolutely. Do I want to get this case concluded? Absolutely. Do I want to give Ms. Kershevsky the opportunity to file her appeal, which presumably will follow and raise issues? Absolutely. I'm well aware there's rulings you will absolutely want to appeal that I made. One of which is the jury instructions. I get that. And for the victim, there needs to be finality as well. But it does no one any good if I ignore all of this, simply plow forward, and then have to redo it at a later point in time. I'm a big believer, right? Let's do things right the first time to avoid that appeal, or at least that particular issue. And I think there's an argument that if I ignore all of this and later on a court of appeals or Supreme Court says this was an actual conflict of interest, or one at least that rises to the level of being a serious potential conflict of interest, then that would likely be the remedy, assuming all other issues, would be affirmed. So I'm mindful of that as well. This weighs heavily on me. I spent a lot of time looking at it. I looked at the various ethical provisions. And while I agree with the state that it can't be just an allegation from a disgruntled or desperate defendant, generally speaking, there has to be something more. It is important, Ms. Kershevsky, that I know your position on all of this as well, because also in the case law, there's a recognition that even with an appointed attorney, if this is who you want to continue representation, that matters as well. And I don't know your position, so I'll ask you. I don't want you to comment on anything else. Merely, do you want either Attorney Galavis or Attorney Kugler to represent you at sentencing?
I did. I do not, because up until yesterday, neither one has done anything for me now because they had halted all proceedings due to the DA conversation they have had. So at this point, as much as I wanted to get out of Waukesha County and proceed forward and go through appeals, I don't, because nothing has been done for sentencing except last minute yesterday. Partial. I have letters of character in limbo. I have nothing completed for sentencing, so no, I don't, and I frankly blame the state for that. They proceeded to release this information, which should have not been done, and it has created this mess. So while they are requesting they should not withdraw on their behalf, I don't think this is right. Everything has been done wrong since they have came forward last week with this information. And I do say, no, I did not write it. There's
cameras all over this jail. There's recorded phone calls. There's a lot of issues here that, no, everything should be stopped. And I need to look at my legal rights because I don't know what they are at this point.
I can tell you.
No, I do not think because of everything that I have since learned, no, I should not have either attorney, which is very hard, proceed at this point, and sentencing should be stopped today.
I can advise you that even if I require them to stay on, I would not go forward with sentencing today because I'm mindful that there has been a pause.
Yeah.
And so knowing that if I were to keep them on, I would adjourn sentencing to give them time to prepare. Does that change your position in any way?
No, I don't think either one of them feel comfortable staying on, so I would prefer not to at this point because of the conversation or little of conversation I've had with both of them. I would prefer not to, no.
Do you understand that could be a significant delay?
Unfortunately, yes, I do. And that is more upsetting, and that is on the state at this point. They released this information. They made this mess. It should have been stopped, but they did this. And that is, quite frankly, very frustrating. And they have nobody to blame but themselves right now. And it is very frustrating. It is very frustrating. And I was told walking out of the detective's office last week, just so you know, you probably will not be leaving anytime soon because of this, knowing I wanted to leave. I have not told them I did not write these letters. So again, that is coming from what? My phone calls? My conversation?
All right,
I did not.
We should,
I'm
going to advise you at this point that I've heard your position. You should consult with an attorney.
I would love to. I still have two on record and nobody will
making any
talk to
further
me.
statements.
I've been trying all week. And I have a letter for you that I have tried to get through the jail, but I will not send it anywhere because I don't trust putting anything out there. So I've had a letter since Sunday for you. I couldn't send it. I have it with me today. Obviously,
I'll accept that filing today if you would like to provide it. And it will be uploaded and e-filed, and it will be part of the record.
That is completely fine.
Wow.
I want to turn back to you because the state has made this request that I consider this 37-page document, presumably because you believe it is relevant to sentencing, I guess, on the character of Ms. Krzyzewski. Would I be wrong in that assumption?
No, Your Honor, and I would say that we didn't release anything. We filed appropriate documents with the court when they came to our attention that directly go in our position to Ms. Krzyzewski's character, and we are duty-bound to inform the court of everything that's relevant to sentencing, which, as this court knows, character is at least 1/3 of the equation. So we filed those.
Elizabeth.
We tried to give the defense attorneys ample leeway in seeing those and offered them to see the originals before we filed them with the court.
That guy right there,
I would say assumption.
that's the young guy on the right behind him with the light jacket.
These are written by Ms. Krzyzewski, and
he is
surrounding that. I mean, from my perspective, there's an allegation that she is the author.
He should have gotten a lot of the friend's will that was killed.
To a person with whom she
That's
has
why he's
some
sitting there all like.
connection. I mean, at this point,
He's been there through the whole trial.
simply undo the filing. I know I referenced that earlier, and does that solve the issue? Does that remedy if I
Very
simply
possible,
say,
Tammy.
I'm not going to consider it. I don't think it does that given the nature of the filing. But the flip side to that is, why wouldn't the state want more information about it so that at the time of sentencing, if I allow it, it's more accurate? Why wouldn't I want your investigation to conclude?
In a perfect world, we'd all want that, Judge, but we're trying to balance a lot of interests here, as the court is. We know that everybody involved in this case, the defense included, has been going through this case for 5 years now. The court case itself, probably 2. The trial was long. So there is an interest in finality, obviously, especially to the victims and the victims' loved ones. We file things and we may never know the answer to some of these things. Now, perhaps time will reveal some more answers, but I can say with certainty that the detectives have been looking into this, I would say on a daily basis, trying to figure out that gap in time. How did they, right, and it's our position. The letter I filed was to put forth the state's position on these things, knowing that the defense would have an opportunity, and that's why we asked them to look at the originals ahead of time so that they could be prepared to file their position with the court. I think that's what the state does in a great many filings. In criminal complaints, for example, we put forth what we believe the evidence shows. Of course, there are allegations, and I can't prove this beyond a reasonable doubt at this point that Ms. Krzyzewski wrote. I can say that it came to our attention. We wanted to give the court ample time to review these documents. We were not just going to assume that at the time we filed these, sentencing would be adjourned automatically. So we've given the court a week with these documents from our filing date. And the detectives have been working hard to answer all those questions the court has, and frankly the state has, and I'm sure the defense has. We just haven't been able to solve some of those answers. But we thought it certainly relevant that these were written on the back of trial notes, that they're dated, that they're made to look like certain pieces of evidence the state put forth as fraudulent during trial. Obviously they're not those items because they were written on the back of trial notes. The letter purports to be from Jesse. She signs her name. I'm no handwriting expert, but the writing looked similar to what we had seen from her handwriting. And she's the only one to gain from having somebody file the things that are requested. A tape recording of Lynn Hernan admitting to being suicidal and essentially putting together a suicide tape and sent to your honor from a concerned citizen with no return address. The envelope itself, the return address portion is a person we know to be very good friends with Ms. Krzyzewski. And we've, of course, redacted her name and address so it doesn't get out there inappropriately, but that's not something we believe a great many people that could have just picked up Ms. Krzyzewski's trial notes would know, and even know to include as the return sender. Now, detectives have gone and talked to that individual, and she claims to know nothing about this at all. So we may be left with no answers. At this point, we don't have them, and I don't know that it's, I don't know what % likelihood I can put on it. I know Detective Plennis informed me today that he's had hours upon hours of jail camera footage put onto a hard drive. I believe it's taken up quite a bit of a hard drive so that it can continue to be reviewed to see if that lends any clues. But knowing that sentencing was today, it was absolutely filed so that this wasn't a last second request for the court to review 37 pages and spring it on everybody as to what the state thought this was. I thought it fair to everybody to put forth the state's position along with the documents itself, along with the opportunity to review the originals because they were double-sided and a single-sided copy. It took the prosecutor team a little time to figure out a single-sided copy on what we were looking at until Detective Plennis had time to sit down and show us the originals. So we first offered that to the defense team before filing with the court with what I would call a guide as to how to read it, given that we could not just bring over the originals to your honor ex parte and show you them.
Have you had an opportunity to discuss the motion to withdraw with the victim?
We have. Our victim witness advocate has been keeping them informed really over the past week as all these filings have come in.
Do they have, does Mr. Posa have, because of the count 3, does he have a position on this or wish to address the court in any way in compliance with victim rights?
I've confirmed with Mr. Posa, who's present in the court, that he does not wish to address the court, but he's obviously very opposed to this. He's been opposed to a great many of the continuances in this trial, understanding that a lot of them are necessary, but certainly there's a great interest in finality to this case.
Attorney Kukler, I'll ask this to both you and Attorney Galaviz, but I want to make clear that I understand the basis for your request is you believe that, or let me state it this way, your request is made under SCR 20:1.6 sub, that's parenthetical B. Is that, do I understand your request correctly?
Yes.
And without divulging confidential information, you have made that request because you believe there's an actual conflict of interest here.
I do. I believe that. And you know, this court knows me from many years of practice and know that I rarely, if ever, have withdrawn from a case.
Thank you. Attorney Galaviz, same question or questions to you. Your request is under SCR 20:1.16 parenthetical B.
Correct, and the state bar.
What do you think is going to happen?
Told me to cite A as the reason, but B could also be used. It's an obvious conflict.
What do you guys think?
You have cited, actually, A.
She's going to
and
decide.
B.
What do you think?
And you did, as your motion states, you did consult with the ethics individuals at the state bar.
Correct.
And they made a recommendation to you?
Correct.
Attorney Kukla, did you do anything like that, or did you rely upon what Attorney Galaviz had done?
That's right, I relied upon what he did.
These types of motions are always difficult for the court, especially when the court has not only presided over what was a trial that lasted almost 4 weeks, many motion hearings, significant motions related to the experts in this case, and a case such as this where we don't really have any more significant crime than the crime of first-degree intentional homicide. And it's difficult because, like I said earlier, I don't want to set a precedent that simply leads someone to believe that you make an allegation against an attorney and that's enough to get that attorney off the case. Oftentimes when we're in the beginning stages of litigation, there's a little bit more leniency when it comes to these types of issues, and this is, I can't say unique, but the circumstances here are important to note that there has been a trial, and a significant trial and significant litigation for a very serious crime, and in fact more than one crime for which Ms. Kershevsky has now been convicted. And lawyers, all lawyers have, in addition to their obligations, for example, for a defense attorney to their client, but all lawyers have the responsibility to be truthful with the tribunal, to have candor. And then, of course, there's all of these confidentiality requirements that apply to Attorney Kukler and Attorney Galaviz. And there's very, very limited circumstances that a lawyer is obligated to reveal information and then even permissively required to reveal information. And I mentioned this earlier and I took a look at that, and I honestly think when you look at it, it's really a stretch. I know I mentioned it, kind of to ask a probing question. It's kind of a stretch, though, to say that there's any requirement or even permissively that allows Attorneys Kukler and Galaviz to reveal information. They're officers of the court. They believe that they have an actual conflict of interest, and they've asked to withdraw. I know from my review of the Supreme Court rules that part of the ethical considerations aren't only to maintain that confidentiality, but obviously lawyers may not counsel a client to engage or assist a client in conduct that the lawyer knows is criminal or fraudulent, but a lawyer may discuss the legal consequences of any proposed course of conduct with a client and may counsel or assist a client to make a good faith effort to determine the validity, scope, meaning, or application of the law. And so, you know, I'm mindful of that. I'm mindful of the rule that's been cited, which is why I asked for confirmation from the lawyers. SCR 20:1.16, terminating representation, sub A states that, except as stated in paragraph sub C, a lawyer shall not represent a client, or where representation has commenced, shall withdraw from the representation of a client if the representation will result in a violation of the rules of professional conduct or other law. Sub B, again, except as stated in paragraph C, a lawyer may withdraw from representing a client if the client persists in a course of action involving the lawyer's services that the lawyer reasonably believes is criminal or fraudulent. The client has used the lawyer's services to perpetuate a crime or fraud, or four, the client insists, sub 4, even though it's not the fourth one I've read, the client insists upon taking action that the lawyer considers repugnant or which the lawyer has a fundamental disagreement. I'm also mindful of what this filing actually contains. And when I reviewed it, it's not just a single reference to the attorneys, but on page 2 of what I would call kind of the cover letter to this document, states as follows: even this envelope didn't go out through jail mail. My attorney took it. This was one of my attorney's ideas, and clearly they aren't going to tell anyone. On the second page, which is the third page of that cover letter, but the next page after that, it says, we are trying to make a stir, a big stir, to show just how wrong they are. Again, very general. And those are the references, I guess, to counsel. This filing clearly raises a concern for the court because whomever wrote it, and I think I do need to consider for purposes of this hearing that one possibility is Ms. Kershevsky.
Okay, Steph.
Is requesting another person to engage in fraudulent and likely criminal activity related to the fabrication of evidence. It's been provided by the state as a request that I consider it at the time of sentencing under my authority and the criteria that I am obligated to consider, right? The three primary sentencing consideration, the galleon factors, one of which is the character of the defendant. That's why the state has presented this information. This information, though, it presents many more questions at times than answers, some of which we've already discussed, including the fact that there is no postmark over the postage. There is what appears to be a stamp from the Waukesha County Jail. I'm now told, and I didn't, I guess, catch this during my review, is that envelope has a crease in it, whereas in all the other documents within it do not. There is information within that filing, as has been explained here today, where there's a verification that they are contemporaneous notes. Attorney Kukler indicated she recognized either her own or Attorney Gallavy's handwriting on it, so there's some legitimacy as to how, or when I should say, that was part of this exhibit or this document was created, right, contemporaneously with the trial or during the trial. when I consider all of that, I think I am left with the inescapable and unenviable decision here today to make a finding that at a minimum there's a serious potential conflict of interest, perhaps even an actual conflict of interest. Looking at the authority in State versus Miller, this court must presume prejudice to Ms. Kershevsky in requiring her attorneys to represent her going further. She does not have an objection. I think there's an additional basis that there has now been a serious breakdown of communication and a difference of objectives between Ms. Kershevsky and her counsel, that this is a relationship that cannot be mended.
See you tomorrow, Steph.
This sentencing hearing must be adjourned and that new counsel be provided for Ms. Kershevsky. I am going to grant with reluctance, but I think it's the right thing to do, the motions to withdraw by attorneys Kukler and Galaviz. Rather than reset a sentencing hearing today, knowing that this was a very lengthy trial for which transcripts may very well need to be obtained, and or new counsel review the live stream recordings that are available online of the trial itself, certainly talk with Ms. Kershevsky, maybe even talk with attorneys Kukler and Galaviz at a minimum, get all discovery information from them, and last but not least, to give the state an opportunity to fully investigate this issue and present more accurate information to the court at the time of sentencing. I do believe it relates to
Hey, Brenda. Hey, Emma.
legitimate sentencing consideration, but as it states right now, this filing, I think, presents some more questions than answers, and I think more time also gives the state an opportunity. I have to be mindful that both sides have the right to a fair hearing at sentencing. And it would likewise be unfair, I think, to the state if I simply said this isn't coming in as well. I will let them argue it, present it, and any additional information on it at the time of sentencing. New counsel can certainly object, and it, of course, will be up to the court at the time of sentencing to put whatever weight, if any, on that as I consider which or how to impose sentence.
This is the judge that they're doing the sentencing
Given that it is
for
early December and we have some holidays coming
Jesse
up, given that it may take some time
Kershevsky.
for the
I
public defender's
mess her name
office,
up.
to appoint, because she does qualify and will continue to qualify.
It was in the eye drop murder case that was all over the place.
I believe, Attorney Kukler, you filed a proposed order. Attorney Galaviz, did you file one as well?
Yes, Judge.
All right, then those both should be on my dashboard. I'll look for those. I'll sign them. And that will then trigger the public defender's office. Attorneys Kukler and Galaviz, what I ask is that you cooperate with whomever is appointed and work with them at getting all discovery to them, and all information and notes that you have from trial to that attorney or attorneys, if that's the case, and do that as promptly and efficiently as possible so that there can be the fewest delays going forward.
Yes, Judge.
For purposes of the next hearing, although I'm allowing you to withdraw, if discovery has not been turned over to successor counsel, I'm requiring both of you to come to that next hearing with discovery that you have, just in the event it didn't take place. That's my way of enforcing that.
We will send ours electronically to whoever is appointed.
even including trial notes and things of that nature that you would give to successor counsel?
We have everything ready electronically for
Okay, very well.
council.
Then I'll take.
She's like, we're ready to pass it on to whoever's ready to pick up this
That's probably
torch.
done very quickly then, but again, if it for some reason hasn't happened, then one of you at least should be here.
Wow. So it's official. Her ex-lawyers are now
Would
ex-lawyers.
everyone be available on Friday, January 12th at 10:30 a.m.?
So she's going to be looking for new counsel. Wowie.
That works for the state. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ugh.
Okay with me?
Yes, that's good.
All right.
That will be for status of counsel and for further scheduling. And again, I'll, as soon as we're done here, look at those orders. I'll let you know if there's an issue with them, but presumably I'll sign them and we'll go from there. Thank you, everyone. That does conclude the hearing.
Thank you.
All right. That was it.
And we'll be in 10:16.
Let me look and see. All right. That was that. So, so they withdrew. Now she's saying she doesn't want them. But you'll have to rewatch it because there was a whole thing. Apparently she wrote some big 30-40 page letter and was trying to send it to a friend from jail, and the letter had instructions in there on how to create an audio tape with what to say to pretend like she was, like that person was Lynn Hernan, which is who she killed, saying things to make her, you know, look in it, to make Jesse look innocent. So anyway, yeah. Not good at all. All right, you guys, I'm going to go get some stuff done here, and I do have my regular stream tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you're welcome to join then, and we'll be back tomorrow morning for day 3. So yeah. Anyway, plan on seeing you at 9 a.m. Back here. All right. Please hit the thumbs up. Thanks for coming and hanging out. You guys are amazing, and I've had a blast the last 2 days. This has been really cool, really fun, really interesting. How is she going to get court docs with her lawyer's signature on them? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, she should have access, though, right, to all of her own court documents. So I don't know, though. I don't really know. But anyway, well, I'm sure we'll be hearing more about it later. And I'm also going to go here in a little bit and see what happened with Lori Vallow Daybell. You probably check that out on Law and Crime Network. Yeah. Or East Idaho News. Is that? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye.